Part 275. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2752. Brother Wang, if you say goodbye to me later, you may have a share in this opportunity today, and then your journey of revenge for your family will be smoother. Xiao Wu felt regretful and pitted, lamenting the twists and turns of life and the fate that comes with it. He also made up his mind that if he learned the true skills from this mysterious beggar master, he would definitely contribute to Brother Wang's revenge in the future. Little did he know that Brother Wang in his mouth did not need his help. How dare anyone in this gang of bandits dare to take advantage of me? But it would be wise to borrow someone else's help. Deep in the refreshing mountains, the Taoist priest sat uniquely on a wooden sedan erected at random, stroking his beard and smiling lightly, showing an extraordinary demeanor. The bearers carrying the sedan in front of him were strong and powerful, and they were all old mountain people who had traveled in the mountains for a long time. Of course, this was only their superficial identity. If you look carefully, you can see from these familiar faces if you mess with nearby villagers. These are all bandits, okay. There are countless green forests in the mountains and forests here, and they are all under the management of the largest bandit leader. The young prince's brother was also sitting on a sedan, looking nervously at the people carrying the sedan for him, for fear that they would suddenly attack. Similar to the raid on the beggar, these green forest heroes attacked the Taoist priest and the young girl's brother at night. How is this different from committing suicide? Taoist priest Jia Yan took action and easily captured these gangsters without any torture. The young queen brother only saw a little brilliance in the eyes of the master. Each of these people was as honest as the mice being stared at by a cat. Tell all the secrets. No, after learning that they were subordinate forces under the Shandawang and that this dispatch was all conspired and ordered by the Shandawang, the Taoist master asked these people to make these two sedans, carry the master and the apprentice, and go straight to the place. Go to the mountain king's village. This is to go straight to Huanglong. The girl's heart was a little turbulent, and she was afraid. From her point of view, the master's strength was only third-rate, roughly similar to that of the hall masters of the mountain king's influence, but it was not even close to being comparable to the mountain king, who was at the peak of the third-rate, or perhaps even the second-rate. Isn't this a sheep entering a tiger's mouth? Disciple, are you worried that master is too impulsive? The girl's worried look was all reflected in Jia Yan's eyes. He smiled lightly and asked bluntly. Master, Wang Mei doesn't dare, but is there anything wrong with you and me boarding the bandits' den like this? She didn't dare to say that she was worried about her master's lack of strength, but she was just giving advice inside and out. You do look a lot like that kid. Jia Yan's incomprehensible statement made the young lady's brother stunned, not knowing what he meant. Little did she know that what Jia Yan meant was that this little girl was very similar to Xiao Wu over there. Both of them were little brats who had been fooling around on the streets. They were not very talented, but they were as timid as a mouse and cautious. Points are exactly the same. However, he understands this matter. When you have no strength, living alone is the only way to survive. Otherwise, these two children under the age of 15 would have died many times walking on the street. Don't be timid. There is a plan for everything. God, there is no way it will collapse. Oh. As he spoke, the sedan swayed and came to a stop at the foot of a large mountain. All the bandits carrying the sedan were stunned, and stood still as if they had been bewitched. The sound of hula hula was loud in the small square at the foot of the mountain, and countless people in well-dressed clothes emerged from the hidden corners of the mountain forest. This group of people all held knives in their hands, including men and women, old and young. Without exception, they had an extremely strong smell of blood on their bodies, which showed that they were all people who had seen blood and experienced battles. Hey, you idiot, you dare to come to our Dawang mountain. Are you not afraid of death? The crowd, 3 levels inside and 3 outside, surrounded Jia Yan and the young girl disciple in the center, and even the dumbfounded bandits carrying the sedan were also hostile to them. Jia Yan looked around with great interest at the hundreds of bandits. This group of people seemed aggressive, but the funny thing was that they surrounded him and no one dared to come forward, which showed that they were still worried about Jia Yan's ability. In particular, a few of them should be very powerful, probably some of the top experts in the outer starry sky. They were looking at the group of subordinates Shantu who were invaded by Jia Yan's brainwave power, causing their brains to become living dead, and were allowed to act according to Jia Yan's orders. The visitors from powerful forces felt a little bit in their hearts. An expert can see the means by looking at an expert. The brainwave power brainwashing technique used by Jia Yan was also extremely subtle for them. This is definitely not a good thing. In other words, even those who are not good and have no confidence will not dare to come and ask for punishment. Friends from Dawang Mountain, I am not here to start a war. You have assassinated my master several times before. I just came here to seek justice. I wonder which king here can speak out. Jia Yan's smile was as bright as ever, turning a blind eye to the hordes of ruthless bandits. I, Niobe, Taoist master, please speak. For those of you who come to this mountain today, please mark the route. A sky-level master came out of the crowd and looked at Taoist Jia Yan on the sedan with a solemn expression. This lord speaks cheerfully, so I won't be sloppy. Jia Yan turned his attention to this person. He seemed to be smiling, but his smile gradually turned cold. The purpose of coming here is very simple. Hand over, he is the culprit who assassinated my master and his apprentice. Later, the so-called mountain king of your family cut off his meridians and abandoned his martial arts. My apprentice was young and inexperienced. He was too frightened this time. Please hand over the compensation, otherwise, I will be poor today. Bloodbath your Dawang Mountain. The request was made, and everyone in the siege team was shocked. How is this request any different from the straightforward statement that they want to destroy their Dawangshan village? Niobe, you really are not a son of man, you are looking for death. Someone was furious, holding a knife, and was about to go forward and fight. Stop. However, the strong man who stood out from the crowd looked ugly and stopped the rioting subordinates. Then he glanced at Taoist Jia Yan with blazing eyes. Taoist priest, I respect your strength, but isn't your request a bit too much? It's not difficult. In the past 2 days, I have also taken the time to inquire about Gishantu's past activities. It seems that your reputation in the nearby villages and towns is not very good. Since all evil deeds have been done, we have only eliminated the first evil, and we have already exhausted our benevolence and righteousness. How can we force others to do something difficult? Jia Yan spoke calmly under the gazes of countless Taoists who wanted to crush him to ashes. Taoist priest, do you really want to make an enemy of the thousands of masters in my great king's village? Do you have the ability? The master of my village is a second-rate master, can you handle it? I advise you to do more than to do less. Please pay compensation. My king's village is willing to give it, but for other requests, I still ask the Taoist master to take back his orders. The strong man who told the story suppressed his violent impulse and stared at the Taoist priest with meticulous eyes. Judging from the previous attacks, this Taoist priest should be a man of great ability. What they fear up and down Dawang Mountain is that this person is a first-class master. If a first-class master attacks, Dawang Mountain may be in danger of being destroyed. Therefore, these gangsters suppressed their gangsterism from beginning to end, otherwise they would have taken action long ago. This time, Jia Yan did not directly reply to the leader of the gangsters who came forward. Instead, he turned his head and looked at the young apprentice who had become completely transparent on this occasion. Disciple, this layman said that I want to take back my destiny as a master. In your opinion, should I take back my destiny as a master, or should I continue to implement my policy? Ah! Brother Wang was beside him, his heart was beating fast because of nervousness. She didn't expect that the master would suddenly click on her. She was startled and couldn't help but exclaimed. I. She found that hundreds of people in the audience were looking at her, and her face turned pale. Girls are still girls after all, and they will be a little timid in big occasions. Don't be afraid. You can say whatever you think. Do you want to let the evil go unpunished, or do you want to restore the world to peace? This matter comes from your heart. No matter what you say, I can make sure you are safe. Jia Yan's Taoist identity and calm tone made the girl's brother's energy suddenly rise. She suddenly remembered that her family had been framed, and now she might be the only one left in the family, but her enemy was still at large, living a life of luxury. Master, we should not forgive those who commit crimes. Otherwise, how can any people in the world live and work in peace and contentment? If the crimes are not eradicated and these green bandits are not allowed to disappear, in another 100 years, this area will still be the talk of the people. A place of lust. The girl suddenly took courage and spoke the truth. The words blurted out, and after she finished speaking, her little face turned pale again, because the gangsters stared at her with a cannibalistic look. Some of them were even eager to try, and they approached the sedan where they were sitting with long swords dazzlingly unsheathed. Okay, a good person shouldn't forgive his sins. Since you think so about your disciples, you can't forgive them as a master. The Taoist priest sighed in admiration, then turned to look at the many gangsters whose faces were getting increasingly grim, especially the leader of the gangsters. He looked directly into his eyes and said, "Did you hear that? Although my disciple is young and ignorant, he also knows that she is a wicked person. She doesn't want you to exist any longer, and if she wants to bring peace to the world, she will have to offend her. You are so shameless, brothers, do it. How else to talk about gangsters?" After all, the bandit leader couldn't get rid of the bandit's temperament. When he discovered that communication between Jia Yan and Jia Yan was ineffective, he launched an attack without warning. He didn't believe it. Could this so-called powerful Taoist priest really be able to escape when surrounded by hundreds of them? After all, at the foot of Dawang Mountain, there is still Dawang and others sitting on the mountain. If a war breaks out here, even if the Taoist leader is extremely powerful, the mountain can rush to help at any time. The Taoist priest, no matter how talented he was, could not stand alone. He surrounded and killed them, and then captured the girl behind them and went up the mountain. Although she was still young, she was old enough to become a public slave in their village. Who allowed her to talk nonsense? Master. I saw several strong and fierce bandit leaders jumping several meters high. Some were holding knives, some were using fists, some were using their legs, and they all attacked the Taoist priest with lightning and flint. The young prince's brother exclaimed loudly. No need to panic. Jia Yan chuckled softly, took out the fly whisk in his hand, and swept it around in the air. He saw the sky was filled with colorful brilliance, and a circle of energy formed for defense was drawn. Puff puff. The people who came were all blocked by this halo of light, and everyone's eyes were about to split. This Taoist priest indeed has some skills. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe, and you will be able to see the normal chapters after the original version is refreshed in an hour. Then he looked at Taoist Jia Yan with blazing eyes, as if burning people. Taoist master, I respect your strength, but your request isn't it a bit too much to impose things on others? It's not difficult. In the past 2 days, I have also taken the time to inquire about Gishantu's past activities. It seems that your reputation in the nearby villages and towns is not very good. Since all evil deeds have been done, we have only eliminated the first evil, and we have already exhausted our benevolence and righteousness. How can we force others to do something difficult? Jia Yan spoke calmly under the gazes of countless Taoists who wanted to crush him to ashes. Taoist priest, Do you really want to make an enemy of the thousands of masters in my great king's village? Do you have the ability? The master of my village is a second-rate master, can you handle it? I advise you to do more than to do less. Please pay compensation. My king's village is willing to give it, but for other requests, I still ask the Taoist master to take back his orders. The strong man who told the story suppressed his violent impulse and stared at the Taoist priest with meticulous eyes. Judging from the previous attacks, this Taoist priest should be a man of great ability. What they feared up and down Dawang Mountain was that this person was a first-rate master. If a first-rate master attacked, Dawang Mountain might be in danger of being destroyed. Therefore, these gangsters suppressed their gangsterism from beginning to end, otherwise they would have taken action long ago. This time, Jia Yan did not directly reply to the leader of the gangsters who came forward. Instead, he turned his head and looked at the young apprentice who had become completely transparent on this occasion. Disciple. This layman said that I want to take back my destiny as a teacher. In your opinion, should I withdraw my destiny as a teacher, or should I continue to implement my policy? Ah! Brother Wang was beside him, his heart was beating fast because of nervousness. She didn't expect that the master would suddenly click on her. She was startled and couldn't help but exclaimed. I. She found that hundreds of people in the audience were looking at her, and her face turned pale. Girls are still girls after all, and they will be a little timid in big occasions. Don't be afraid. You can say whatever you think. Do you want to let the evil go unpunished, or do you want to restore the world to peace? This matter comes from your heart. No matter what you say, I can make sure you are safe. Jia Yan's Taoist identity and calm tone made the girl's brother's energy suddenly rise. She suddenly remembered that her family had been framed, and now she might be the only one left in the family, but her enemy was still at large, living a life of luxury. Master, we should not forgive those who commit crimes. Otherwise, how can any people in the world live and work in peace and contentment? If the crimes are not eradicated and these green bandits are not allowed to disappear, in another 100 years, this area will still be the talk of the people. A place of lust. The girl suddenly took courage and spoke the truth. How can any people in the world live and work in peace and contentment? If the evil is not eradicated and these green bandits are not allowed to disappear, in another 100 years, this area will still be a place where people talk about it. The girl suddenly took courage and spoke the truth. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2753. Jia Yan's movements are free and easy, imitating the sword skills seen in TV series on Earth in the past, but his execution is more ethereal and realistic. After all, he is the authentic strong man no matter what. How come this Taoist priest is so powerful? The siege is ineffective? His strength doesn't look very strong. The bandits couldn't understand the Taoist priest's strength at all. Everyone was as silent as a cicada. Wolf smoke exploded, and on the top of Dawang Mountain in the distance, a large number of strong bandits began to gather, roaring towards the bottom of the mountain. Puff! A long sword pierced the chest of the little boss, and the blood burst out. The little boss was bleeding profusely. What kind of swordsmanship is this? Tai Chi swordsmanship. Jia Yan drew his sword and resisted the assassination of another long knife from behind. As for his cheap disciple Wang Ji, who was clumsy with both hands, Dugujijian, with the help of black energy, actually managed to resist the attack of 7 or 8 ordinary bandits in a hurry. It doesn't matter if she can't win, Jia Yan will be her solid support behind her, which is equivalent to giving her a trick. It seemed that the master was fighting fiercely with the enemies, but the girl saw clearly that the master had many secrets, so there was no need to worry about anything going wrong. Otherwise, how could he, an old man, dare to take his own oil bottle and charge into the enemy's lair? When other people fight, they fight quickly, but their own master deliberately takes his time. This is actually a sign of amazing strength. After she figured it out, she had no scruples. Even if she thought about it, she would die. Life is not a child's play. No one would waste their precious life inexplicably, nor would they joke about it. The young queen brother, who seems to be determined to follow the master, has actually been at war with nature and shaken in his heart. These waverings were a process, and her suspicions and thoughts were all in the past. The key was that she finally stood by her master's side and firmly fought against the enemy, even if she only held down 3 or 5 big men. How? Deep in the mountain forest, the leaders of Dawang Mountain, who were entangled with a large number of elite mountain bandits, sent out high-pitched whistles. This whistle represents the troops rushing to help and holding on for a moment. The way these orders are conveyed alone can also show that Dawangshan is not a tangle of rabble, but a powerful force that truly has the ability to dominate a party. However, this so-called power depends on who it is for. For the local forces and even many first-class experts, the strength they gathered was quite impressive. But for a master of the game like Jia Yan, that's not worth mentioning. Master! I told you, don't panic. Showing cowardice in war will lead to death. Brother Wang panicked again, but the master retorted again. She gritted her teeth tightly and pursed her red lips as pale as paper. The master is not really going to the head, thinking that he can deal with the entire Dawang Mountain single-handedly, right? As a street child wandering around in the nearby area, she had also heard rumors about Dawang Mountain bandits. It was said that officers and soldiers had gone into the mountain several times to suppress bandits, but they were repeatedly beaten to death. Even many masters were trapped in this mountain and died tragically. This shows that Dawang Mountain is a dangerous place. The bandits are extremely vicious. What a great Taoist priest, look at the ghost-headed sword of our leader. While the girl was unconscious, someone suddenly arrived from the air on Dawang Mountain. He rushed to the front of the battlefield before the soldiers and horses, and the sword in his hand was cut down like the mighty force that created the world. This attack is a real force that is about to reach the starry sky level. In this world, it cannot be said to be the ultimate master, but it is also known as the top of the third-rate master. It is beyond the power of human beings. The gangsters on the ground, who were pestering Taoist Jia Yan like little devils, fell back one by one, leaving corpses everywhere. They looked at their own king, who arrived with supreme momentum, and they suddenly felt filled with pride. If there is any accident, my king can take action and it can be settled. This is the biggest reason why this group of minions can suffer heavy casualties and still refuse to retreat. They watched the fire from afar like a bunch of people eating melons, which also gave the little girl a chance to breathe. When a large number of sparks exploded in the sky, and the Taoist priest and the mountain king were seen fighting each other. The first blow from the two of them caused the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. The strong wind roared and the mountains roared, deafening. Facing the mountain king's chain of ghost-headed swords, the Taoist priest seemed to be slightly at a disadvantage, and he retreated violently, holding the sword in his hand. The fly whisk is clumsy on the left and right, one step is a footprint, and the two sides are in a critical situation as soon as the battle begins. Okay. King, kill him. The onlookers all cheered loudly. Not to mention other things, during the short battle, the Taoist priests of Xianfeng Daogu had killed nearly 20 of them. They could not wait to hack this man to death with knives and break his bones. Only by raising ashes can the hatred in the heart be relieved. Is the situation over? The little girl brother Wang took the opportunity to escape the joint attack of many bandits and ran into the woods under the escort of Fijian. His eyes flickered and hesitated a little. Looking at his master, he seemed to be in danger. Whether it can be defeated or not, this is just an enemy. Regardless of whether he is the enemy king or not, there are so many fresh troops behind him, which is a fact that cannot be ignored. If you can't beat me, I'll run away. Brother Wang was frightened and wanted to escape but didn't dare. She looked at Fijian, then at the Taoist master in the fierce battle, biting her red lips again and again, and finally made the decision that as long as the old man was injured, she would run away. Both the master and the disciple couldn't be ruined. During this period, there were not many gangsters who wanted to get close to Brother Wang. Fortunately, the flying sword played a very good role in protecting him. Regardless of the level of cultivation, those who approached were forced to retreat or even beheaded with one sword. The Taoist priests who were fighting on the battlefield still retreated violently after being beaten, but someone soon noticed that they were following. This Taoist priest, retreat without causing chaos. He's still so calm, but in this situation, he still wants to pretend. Humph, if you don't fall for his trick, if you strike 10 more times, the king will definitely kill him on the spot. Puff. Well, after the bandit here said the 10 moves, he was impartial. When the 10 moves came, the Taoist sword took a wrong turn, suddenly twisted in an incredible direction, and stabbed the strong man with the ghost-headed sword in the arm. He suffered minor injuries. This time the reincarnation man retreated violently. He covered the wound and glared at the crow-mouthed subordinate fiercely, making the crow-mouthed man shrink his neck. "Don't be arrogant, Taoist priest. I'm here to help you, your majesty." Seeing that the Taoist priest was about to win, someone on the bandit's side couldn't hold back anymore. He pulled out his weapon, a pair of bright golden hammers, and hit the Taoist priest Jia Yan on the head with his pocket. Jia Yan faced the coming masters again, calmly, using his sword tip and pen to move like a dragon, using speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness to the extreme. The giant golden melon hammer was about to come in front of the door. The blade of the sword was wrapped around the surface of the hammer, gently surrounding it, and using with 4 or 2 strokes of skillful force, the golden melon hammer was deflected, making the hammering man completely stunned. Then his palm burned with flames and he slapped the man's seal with one palm. Wow! The man spurted blood from his mouth and took more than 10 steps backwards. Every step was startling. There were deep footprints under his feet. What a fierce palm technique! The strong man was so shocked that he started to bleed again. His eyes lost all color of life, he staggered and fell to the ground, and was actually slapped to death. Swordsmanship, body skills, palm skills, this Taoist priest doesn't seem to have a high level of cultivation, but he is proficient in so many unique skills. No, since this person took action, no one can say for sure whether he has gone all out. Maybe his cultivation is far from what he shows today. For a moment, all the bandits in Dawang Mountain were shaken when they saw that the fallen man was completely lifeless. The person who died was none other than this man who was second only to the great king and the second great king of Dawang Mountain. He was regarded as the 3 great kings of Dawang Mountain. His status was revered and his strength was incomparable to ordinary people. But he was killed by the Taoist priest. Moreover, even though the Taoist priest had killed 3 of their kings, he still looked disapproving. People who didn't know better thought he had killed some little minions. At this moment, everyone lost confidence. "Okay, you idiot, kill my brother and pay with your life." The king's arm was injured, and he screamed strangely. He threw down his ghost-headed sword and used an all-out sword technique, vowing to avenge the 3 kings. But he was careful about this move. When the Taoist priest's eyes flashed, the sword edge trembled slightly, and he was about to take action. The king's ghost-headed sword was bent with skillful force, and the handle of the knife was thrown away from his hand. He actually used the knife as a hidden weapon and swung it towards the Taoist priest's face. He himself had already gathered his strength and retreated, running as if he was running away. In their profession of bandits, it is not shameful to escape. In other words, those who can escape while being chased by countless officers and soldiers and powerful enemies are qualified bandits. Only those who are ruthless and flexible can be called great criminals. Withstanding the ghost head sword, the king escaped from the attack range and let the tiger return to the mountain, which was undoubtedly extremely dangerous. However, it is impossible not to block it. The ghost head sword is powerful and heavy. No matter how strong the Taoist is, it is dangerous to let it attack the front door. What a powerful Taoist priest! I saw him frowning with his sword eyebrows and starry eyes, and he let out a whistle. Others couldn't see clearly his movements even if they couldn't take their eyes away. In the blink of an eye, he didn't use too much power when stepping on his feet, but his speed was wonderful and mysterious. Pressed against the front of the ghost-headed sword, half of the long temples were cut off directly. The man was short and missed the ghost-headed sword, and a thin sword blade stabbed out of the center of the fly whisk in his hand. Good guy, this whisk has a long handle. He thought about whether he could use it, so he put a sword blade inside the whisk. It really works wonders. The sword edge stabbed out, calmly, but it contained the danger of death. The king had only taken 5 steps to escape when he found murderous intent surging behind him. Panic appeared in his eyes. A large amount of body refining aura densely covered the surface of his body, protecting himself completely. Jia Yan adheres to the basic principle of not exposing the true strength and trying to control it at the peak of the heaven level. The power of this thrust is mediocre, but it goes straight to the opponent's weak point. Puff. The king's eyes trembled violently, and the tip of the sword came out from his chest. The Mountain King, who was so powerful in the past, had not even given his name yet, and his vitality was directly lost, and he was about to end his sinful life. I are unwilling. The Mountain King's eyes were red, and he was so arrogant just now that he thought he could cut the Taoist priest into 5 pieces, but he didn't expect that his wish was shattered so quickly. It was he who died. If your skills are inferior to others, you deserve to die. Moreover, he is the evil leader of Dawang Mountain with many evil deeds. Killing him is not considered killing innocent people, but will only be rewarded by heaven and earth. Besides, Jia Yan is one of the creators of the world. He has the final say whether he kills the wrong person or not. Master, that's great. The little girl behind him couldn't help but cheer. She looked sharply at the sad gangsters around her, then fell silent and quickly shut up. She thought that after the death of the evil leader, this group of leaderless Dawang Mountain bandits who were full of evil deeds would disperse. However, such contempt for the famous Dawang Mountain bandits was too small. Instead of fleeing for their lives, this group of people, on the contrary, after the evil leader of Dawang Mountain was eradicated, in the midst of the turbulent waves, their eyebrows stood up, and they roared with smoke and violently attacked the Taoist priest Jia Yan who killed their king. To outsiders, the bandits in Dawang Mountain are full of evil. But for the gangsters here, Dawang Mountain is the last barrier for their survival. Only here can they have good wine and meat, women and children, and families. What others may see as a dragon's pond or a tiger's den, but to the tribesmen of Dawangshan village, it is a warm family. Now that the king is dead, I'm afraid the village will soon cease to exist. Someone who can command such a huge mountain stronghold is definitely not just a brave and intrepid little bandit. He can use a lot of kindness and power at the same time. Some people who have been favored by the king have gone crazy now. Since the king is dead, they will have no home in the future, so why not go to hell with the king now, which can be regarded as a name of loyalty. How brave, Sister Wang, take care of yourself. I don't know, my master is going to go on a killing spree today. Yes. Faced with such a roaring mountain and tsunami, and the number of Dawangshan bandits numbering in the hundreds, Jia Yan was able to take care of himself and remained as calm as ever. It seems that this group of people who are going through fire and water are a bunch of little characters who can be crushed to death casually. This is indeed the case. Dang dang dang. Ding 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 ding. Boom boom boom. The entire foot of Dawang Mountain was filled with the sound of clashing swords and killing with true energy and spiritual energy that lasted for more than 10 minutes. Regardless of whether he is a heaven-level bandit or a passerby who is not at the earth level, Jia Yan, as a Taoist priest, treats them all the same. He walked past these bandits one by one, as if strolling in a court, looking for the book. The whisks like wind and lingering clouds, and the sharp swords hidden in the whisks, would take the lives of these people. After walking all the way, they left behind a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. No one was spared, and most of them were killed in one blow. If it's just a dozen or 20 people, that's it. You know, these were hundreds of people, and even some who tried to escape later were chased and killed one by Taoist priests with graceful demeanor and precise footsteps. Isn't he tired? Even a third-rate master would be too weak to kill so many people in one breath. Many people hold this idea in mind and still cannot figure it out until they die. Apprentice, there are not many gangsters left, so you should take action to avoid future troubles. Oh, yes, yes. The little girl was shocked by the hellish scene in front of her. After being reminded, she finally came back to her senses. Overcoming her inner discomfort, she pulled out the stolen, it was a family heirloom sword obtained from a friend, and caught up with some ruthless gangsters. Using the family master's flying sword as a talisman, they started fighting. The subsequent process turned out to be a massacre with corpses strewn across the field. After the battle, a fire broke out and the entire Dawang mountain was reduced to scorched earth, and the master and the apprentice were missing. In the Battle of Dawang Mountain, although the bandits were out of their houses and the death rate was as high as 90%, there were still a large number of old, weak, sick, and disabled people who fled early, and the Taoist priests and disciples did not have the energy to chase and kill them all. So they fled to the outside world with panic and all kinds of unbelievable information. As they fled in all directions, the entire process of the destruction of Nyata's Dawang Mountain was like a tornado, quickly sweeping across the land. The whole country is shocked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2754. The mysterious and powerful Taoist priest destroyed the bandit den entrenched in Dawang Mountain, which shocked the whole world. Dawang Mountain has a history of banditry, and the late emperor even launched several encirclement and suppression campaigns with soldiers, each time to no avail. Unexpectedly, this time a capable person single-handedly uprooted the chaos in Dawang Mountain. Terribly strong. The methods are also shocking and somewhat inexplicable. According to rumors, this Taoist master's skills did not seem to be more than third-rate, but after killing the leader of Dawang Mountain, he was able to hunt down and eradicate a large number of Dawang's remnants. A third-rate master would not be able to do this with all his tricks. Not to mention third-rate masters, even first-rate masters with insufficient spiritual energy would find it extremely difficult. At this point, this Taoist priest with extraordinary magical skills has completely become famous. Of course, he must also bring his female disciple with him. There are many rumors that this female disciple is extremely talented. She is no more than a nutmeg, but she is powerful enough to defeat all the bandits. I don't know if these rumor mongers will be able to speak out again when they see the little girl on the mountain roadside who giggled so much when she heard these remarks. In fact, in addition to this mysterious Taoist priest in Angwo, there is another person who shocked the world recently. That was the beggar who appeared in the same mountain, but in another area completely opposite to the south. Of course, after this person became famous, no one dared to call him a beggar. Instead, the honorific title is Qixia. The name Qixia comes from the Xiu Sha sect, another major force in the mountain forest. This sect and the Dawang Mountain bandits have always been in a two-legged relationship, occupying the area on the other side of the mountain forest. Unexpectedly, when Dawang Mountain was destroyed, bad news came from the Xiu Sha gate. At the same time, it was defeated by the Qixia single-handedly. From top to bottom, one by one, no one escaped, and they were all captured alive and presented to the officials. The two Green Forest forces, when they were fighting for each other secretly, never thought that they would be destroyed at the same time. Compared to the Taoist priests who killed the forces in Dawang Mountain, Qixia's name was even better. The reason is simple. The mysterious Taoist priest tried his best to eradicate the Dawangshan bandits. Qixia, on the other hand, captured everyone in the Xiusha sect without knowing it. He traveled hundreds of miles a day, and no one knows the unfathomable power of Qixia until now. Comparing the two sides is like the battle between fireflies and bright moon, completely disproportionate. Master, tell me, is it funny? Just now I went to the restaurant to get food, and someone compared you to that Taoist priest. How can he be compared to you? The beggar was sitting against the wall. The young man respectfully took out the food from the bamboo basket and handed it to the beggar to eat. There were people waiting around, some pointing and others clasping their fists in the distance. The name of the Qixia spread, and some people were grateful to the Qixia for eliminating harm to the people, and deliberately approached him just to convey their gratitude. Some people also served hot meals and dishes. Disciple, I cannot say this anymore. Anyone who punishes rape and eradicates evil must be respected. Besides, I have not met the Taoist priest. Maybe he is not my teacher. The beggar Jia Yan taught his apprentices while eating. How is it possible? Master, your name has already spread far and wide in Angguo. Some people say that master should be compared with first-class masters such as national masters. The Taoist priests who destroyed the bandits in Dawang Mountain are not worth mentioning to you, master. Yes. That's wrong. How do you know that this Taoist priest is not a senior expert? Maybe it's my good friend. The beggar's words reminded Xiao Wu. He was stunned, and then asked solemnly, Master, is it possible that this Taoist priest is your good friend, master? It is said that he also has a disciple. Speaking of this, Xiao Wu felt more and more likely that it was possible and became nervous. Jia Yan, a beggar, had a mouthful of food and shook his head, it's impossible. The good friend I know is a selfless person. If they want to eradicate Dawang Mountain, they may not even be able to escape alive. Thinking that the friend mentioned by the master is similar in strength to the master, Xiao Wu felt relieved. That's right, he must be no longer the master's good friend. The two of them ate and drank, ignoring the various looks around them. A similar situation had lasted for several days after the beggar Jia Yan destroyed Xiushaman. The initial fear gradually turned into a habit, and Xiao Wu was able to turn a blind eye. As long as the master is by his side, he has endless power. Children are easily dependent on others. This is biological nature. The young and weak will always find enough support around them. The drizzle suddenly started falling without any warning while the two were eating. You two distinguished guests, why don't you go to the inn over there for a rest, and I'll treat you to my guests. Someone approaches and invites you. Xiao Wu looked back at his master. He was worried that the master would not be willing to go because of his status or the uniqueness of his sect. Otherwise, why would he be lying on the floor these days? How dirty! Unexpectedly, the beggar was so quick and tidy this time, he got up from the ground, patted his butt, and made a gesture to let the person lead the way. The man was overjoyed and quickly led the way. Xiao Wu's eyes were dull for a moment. So it's not that the master can't go to the inn, but he just didn't ask. He keenly noticed that although the beggar master dusted himself off when he got up, he was still dirty everywhere. The dirty clothes he first saw the master wearing were still the same now. I'm afraid there wasn't much dust at all. The only one who suffered along the way was me, Xiao Wu. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and quickly caught up. Inside the inn. The man obviously asked his servants to come to the inn to take care of everything. Neither the waiter nor the shopkeeper were dissatisfied at all with the beggar. The two parties sat down separately as host and guest, and there were not many outsiders around. "Brother, please order anything you want." "Okay, Xiao Wu, please keep an eye on me and let me have a few words with this friend." Jia Yan was calm and composed. The eyelids of the man opposite him were twitching wildly. "Senior should have discovered my identity, so I won't test you anymore. My name is Su Tian, and I come from the Ministry of Information and Information Technology of Angguo. I came here this time to ask Senior Kixia, but I am from Angguo, and I have some knowledge in Angguo." "What's the point?" After the man's expression changed several times, he asked the question directly. "You are not from Angguo. You are here to visit friends. In addition, I have accepted a young man from your Angguo as your apprentice." The man looked at Xiao Wu, who was closely following the beggar behind the horse, and showed satisfaction. "This young gentleman seems to have good foundation. Of course, what's even better is that he is valued by Senior Qi Xia and has a bright future. If you don't want to ask any more questions, stop talking about these things and just talk about romance." Jia Yan turned a deaf ear and pointed at the large amount of delicious food presented, signaling that he was ready to eat. "Okay, Senior, please, just talk about romance." The man received the instruction and knew that the master beggar in front of him didn't want to say anything else, so he quickly nodded in agreement. The two sides began to talk about everything. During the process, this person discovered that although the beggar in front of him did not know much about geography and other knowledge, he often hit the mark when talking about many aspects of insight and knowledge, and he had quite his own prejudices. In terms of cultivation, it was like an enlightenment, which made his strength, which he had not developed for many years, vaguely shaken. He was terrified. "What kind of strength is this? I just made a few random remarks. Master, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand it at all?" Afterwards, Xiao Wu looked at the man who left the inn happily and drunkenly, and expressed his complete incomprehension to the wife the master was talking to. "Apprentice, you are still young. When you grow up, you will be able to understand what the master said." Jia Yan smiled when he thought of what he had just said, speaking in as elegant a manner as possible. "Anyway, it's what I call oracle. Just talking nonsense should have an effect, depending on this person's reaction. Whether you believe it or not, anyway, I believed." With a few words of advice, Qi Xia convinced the special envoy of Angguo, who had been stuck in strength for a long time and had not moved, that his strength greatly improved that night. Once this incident came out, the world was shocked again. Using words alone, he made a mid-level heaven-level master, that is, a mid-level third-rate master, have a great improvement in strength, causing a storm. Originally, no one wanted to come into contact with this master who easily destroyed the Xiu Sha sect. After this incident came out, a large number of people who were unable to make progress suddenly showed up uninvited, and the threshold of the inn was almost broken within a few days. The innkeeper was worthy of being a businessman. He took this opportunity to greatly increase the price of food and wine, and made a lot of money by borrowing the east wind. On the other side, masters and apprentices Jia Yan and Xiao Wu, for some unknown reason, stayed in the town where they settled for several days. After eating and drinking for another 3 days, I decided to start the journey again. "Master, why did you arrest those people again?" It turned out that before leaving, several masters who came here because of their fame in the towns were directly captured by Jia Yan using his grappler in full view of everyone. These guys are all guilty of murder. I can smell the blood from across the town. If not, who can I arrest? Oh, Master, you are truly a true immortal who eliminates harm for the people. Xiao Wu was extremely proud. Over the past few days, he had experienced the initial disgust with this beggar who forced himself to be his apprentice, then gradually realized that the beggar had real abilities, and finally was completely convinced by the beggar's all-powerful Japanese skills. After all, he has received a lot of praise, and he has also enjoyed a wave of treatment as a master's disciple. Recently, his ears have softened a lot due to the praise from everywhere. Xianxia. Jia Yan was silent. Sometimes, he thought that when he came to this planet that was relatively close to the immortal, he came to the world of true immortal cultivation in his mind. But after 1,000 dreams, he found that people and things were similar. It's nothing more than something cultivated becoming spiritual energy. Murder, arson, and intrigue are the same everywhere. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Wu found that the master had something on his mind, so he quickly did not dare to disturb him. Xiao Wu, if one day you find out that the master is not the master you thought, and even the world is not the world you thought, will you be disappointed? The confused questions made young Xiao Wu hesitate for a long time. Master Xiao Wu thought for a while and said, "Until then, I don't know what I will think." Jia Yan nodded, "Yes. People are not fixed data. Even the same person will have completely different reactions depending on the situation, environment, and other factors when the truth is discovered at the time. How can you draw a conclusion by just asking? I thought about it myself. But," the young disciple said, "even if the master hides something from me, he will definitely not harm me. After Xiao Wu was a sinner who fled to the world, without the master, he might have died on the way to become a master one day, so even if the master wanted to, if you take my life, I won't blame the master. After all, it was the master who gave me a new life and allowed me to see this world of immortality." Jia Yan unexpectedly looked at this casual disciple. "Very good, disciple. I didn't expect you to be able to say these words. I am very satisfied. How about this? Tonight, I will teach you the 18 Bronze Man body protection magic technique, so that you can do it from now on. How about having a body of gold and steel?" Ah! There are also magical skills like this. "Okay, master, I want to learn them." "You want to learn, right? That's okay. Click, click. No, I want to learn magical skills." "Master, what are you doing with your fists?" "I forgot to tell you that my master's body protecting exercises require the help of others in order to be effective. This means that my master has to constantly hit you with his palms and fists. Don't worry, my master will be very gentle and won't let you down. Broken tendons and fractures. This, master, how about I stop learning? I. Bang. Oh, master, why did you take action? Didn't you agree to tonight?" "That's right, I'll learn tonight. Now I'll start to loosen your muscles and bones. Ouch. I don't want to learn anymore. Ouch, master, please, be gentle. Ah, it hurts, oh." There is a difference of a few hundred words. You can see it by refreshing the original version in an hour. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Wu found that the master was worried, and he quickly did not dare to disturb him. "Xiao Wu, if one day you find out that the master is not the master you thought, and even the world is not the world you thought, will you be disappointed?" The confused questions made young Xiao Wu hesitate for a long time. "Master." Xiao Wu thought for a moment and said, "I don't know what I will think until then." Jia Yan nodded, "Yes. People are not fixed data. Even the same person will have completely different reactions depending on the situation, environment, and other factors when the truth is discovered at the time. How can you draw a conclusion by just asking? I thought about it myself. But," the young disciple said, "even if the master hides something from me, he will definitely not harm me. After Xiao Wu was a sinner who fled to the world, without the master, he might have died on the way to become a master one day, so even if the master wanted to, if you take my life, I won't blame the master. After all, it was the master who gave me a new life and allowed me to see this world of immortality." Jia Yan unexpectedly looked at this casual disciple. Very good, disciple. I didn't expect you to be able to say these words. I am very satisfied. How about this? Tonight, I will teach you the 18 Bronze Man body protection magic technique, so that you can do it from now on. How about having a body of gold and steel? Ah! There are also magical skills like this. Okay, Master, I want to learn them. You want to learn, right? That's okay. Click, click. No, I want to learn magical skills. Master, what are you doing with your fists? I forgot to tell you that my master's body protecting exercises require help from others. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2755. Above the starry sky, the battle between the black and white gods has actually reached a fever pitch. Your Excellency, if you are helping those black gods to do evil, you know you will go to hell in the future. What a joke, is it you, the white god type, who is going to hell, or me, the black god type? It is my Lord Black God who has the final say about this hell. Lord Black God controls life and death, and you, the white god type, are the boss. The battle between the black and white gods has already risen to the level of the invincible realm, and there are invincible realms fighting fiercely in the stars every day. Listening to the strong men of the black god type fighting with themselves, it feels like the invincible state of the white god type coming out to fight. Who is not wary of the forces that usually fight against the white gods? Under the name of the white gods, they are not strong enough in battle and soft-spoken. It's not like the black god type. It's very powerful, and it won't weaken you even if you fight or fight. There is no way he can really compete with the Bashan family, and he has the foundation. Humph, do the black gods dare to only engage in verbal disputes? If you have the ability, let me show you the truth. I'm afraid you won't make it, come here. The two black and white elements were invincible, and they were domineering, and soon they met in one place. On the other hand, the army at the rear was about to move, but was restrained by the superior officer again. This is the situation on many battlefields. After the Battle of the Starry Sky started, the White God sect made a clear agreement that the two God-level realms would not take action. They deliberately threw the invincible realm that far exceeded that of the Black God sect into the battlefield. Fierce battles broke out between the two invincible realms on any battlefield, causing injuries. After losing one person, the strong ones from the White God type will retire from the rotation, but those from the Black God type can only struggle to hold on. It's not that the ordinary army is greedy for life and fear of death, but that the White God sect deliberately uses a large number of invincible realms to guard the Black God sect's ordinary army, so that they have to sit back and watch. The purpose of the White God system is very simple. That is to make as many Black God-level invincible realms as possible exhausted, slowly causing the Black God-level invincible realm to reduce its numbers, and this person who has reached the peak of the mortal realm is very likely to have a fatal impact on future battles in the God-level realm. This matter is also reflected in the struggle among the people for the invincible realm. In the early stages of the war, the two sides quickly realized that the invincible realm was of great help to both sides. So the fight for the invincible realm, overt and covered fights, began. On some peaceful planets, troops from both sides arrived to search for the top invincible realm that exists on the planet. In this situation, it is no longer clear what is right and wrong. Maybe the white gods are acting tyrannically, or the black gods are just as bad. The brothers on both sides are good, and no one can blame the other. For a time, all kinds of sequelae and disasters caused by the war were displayed all over the small world. Fortunately, similar incidents have not affected the remote immortal cultivation star in a corner for the time being. But there are also rivers and lakes here, and there are also grievances and hatreds. For example, the two disciples, the young queen brother and the young boy Xiao Wu, who were severely beaten by society, had a lot of love and affection at a young age. The thrilling childhood memories taught them extremely profound and painful lessons. For Jia Yan, this is a good thing, at least it saves him the energy to teach the children himself. Xiao Wu, go get me the water to wash my feet. Yes. The beggar was wearing rags and sitting leaning on a tree stump, while his disciple Xiao Wuan was riding in front and behind. If this were on a more civilized planet, he would probably be scolded by the media for child abuse. Jia Yang felt comfortable, and Xiao Nian Xiao became more and more convinced of his master's patience and obedience to orders, even willing to wash his feet with water. Come, you can practice for my teacher the 18 dragon subduing palms that I taught you yesterday. Yes, master, please take a look. Xiao Wu performed the 18 dragon subduing palms taught by Jia Yan in the open space in the wild. Jia Yan quickly clapped his hands to indicate that his apprentice was doing well, but some of his moves were too rigid and not powerful enough. In fact, he just gave advice and was not happy about Xiao Wu's progress at all. Because it all looks like shit. The life forms in this world are probably created out of thin air using a large amount of resources. They are extremely poor in talent, perhaps even worse than the people on Earth in the past. If the cultivation system does not exist widely in the world, I am afraid that they will not be able to survive for tens of millions of years. It is also impossible to develop the current cultivation path. Combined with the other end's instructions to the young queen brother, Jia Yan thought about it. There is an endless stream of cars and horses on the road. The two beggars over there, come over and push the cart for me. Suddenly a man with a big belly stood up boldly, and Ji pointed angrily towards the two of them. Jia Yan looked up and found that the carriage behind the man was stuck in a mud pit caused by the rainy season and could not move. Master, do you want me to drive him away? Jia Yan calmly shook his head and said with a smile, no, being kind to others means being kind to yourself. Let's help them. As he said this, he actually nodded and bent over to the car and horse of the pot-bellied man. He pretended to be an ordinary beggar and pushed and helped. You stinky beggar, haven't you eaten? Try harder. The pot-bellied male master yelled angrily. Xiao Wu was standing next to him, his eyes wide with anger, and he barely touched the bamboo stick in his hand. Even though Xiao Wu couldn't learn Yuexu's cultivation, but after studying with the majestic black god Jia Yan, he was no longer a master that ordinary people could deal with. Even though the big-bellied man was big, there was no way he could survive 1.5 moves under Xiao Wu's hands. Xiao Wu, why are you standing there in a daze? Come and help me. Oh. With Xiao Wu's help, the carriage and horse finally squirmed slowly, pulled themselves out of the mud pit, and finally drove away. Jia Yan was covered in mud, and Xiao Wu was almost furious. He looked up at the carriage that was gradually moving away, and muttered, Master, they didn't even say thank you. Let the apprentice punish them, otherwise, everyone in the world would dare to be disrespectful to the master. No, 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 he, this guy will get his retribution. Come on, let's go back to the tree stump and wash up and sleep. Jia Yan smiled, waved his hands, and went back to lie down next to the tree stump. He saw that the mud on his clothes fell off automatically and quickly returned to the original state. There was no trace of mud at all. In the early morning of the next day, the master and the apprentice walked into the next town they planned to go to, and saw someone whispering on the roadside. Did you hear that? Yesterday, the fat man from the Wang family, the richest man in our city, was driving at night. He and his car fell into the cliff and died. It's a good death. This man was always greedy for wealth, but he didn't expect to die just after a trip. At first, Xiao Wu didn't notice any connection between this rumored figure and the disrespectful person he encountered yesterday. Xiao Wu was surprised when there were people wailing in the street and someone came back with a generous salary and a hearse carrying the body. Isn't this the fat guy from yesterday? Master! Look, Isn't this what humans are doing and God is watching? Well, yes, you deserve it. Xiao Wu was extremely suspicious, looking at the back of the master who seemed to have known him for a long time, wondering in his heart whether the master knew that this person was in such a disaster. What's more, was the master responsible for the death of the fat man with a big belly? Not really. Jia Yan doesn't have the energy to even deal with such a small person on the side of the road. It's one thing to waste his energy, but it's also a price drop. Isn't it too narrow-minded for a senior domain owner to do this nonsense? In fact, he recently transformed into an ordinary person and gradually gained a preliminary understanding of the world. As Black God, the god of creation, gained deeper understanding, he began to integrate with the world as one of the instinctive powers of the god of creation. If a strong person scolds him, it may not have much impact, but if a weak person points his nose at him and scolds him, even if he is ungrateful and acts like a white-eyed wolf after enjoying the blessings of God, this is something that the world will not tolerate. Jia Yan deliberately helped and let the fat man scold him. In fact, it was revenge. The world would get rid of this daring person for Jia Yan. This is called, I will not kill Boran, but Boran will die because of me. Xiao Wu looked carefully at the back of his master, and then at the body of the fat man who was carried into the mansion by the crying clan members. He shook his head and decided to keep it secret. Regardless of whether this person was killed by the master, he died by accident anyway. Even if he had a guess, he couldn't say it. After all, Jia Yan was the master. Even if he took action, it would be to punish the disrespectful person. But I don't know if there is no airtight wall in the world, or if there were people coming and going on the mountain road last night. Some people pretended to be passers-by and stared at the master and the apprentice. In short, after Jia Yan had a verbal dispute with a local wealthy person, the man fell off a cliff and died not long after. This incident quickly spread like a spark throughout Angwo. You know, Angwo is experiencing the trend of begging for heroes these days. Unexpectedly, I heard that Kixia might attack mortals at will due to personal grudges. This is not the beggar that everyone imagined. I don't know what the original intention of those who spread this story was. In short, countless people who imagined beautiful things quickly gave up their enthusiasm. On the contrary, many people no longer thought about Jia Yan as a good guy. Even many people, the idea of imitating other martial arts masters and coming to see the Kixia was also given up. The term beggar, which detonated the term beggar in the early days of the Angwo period, quickly turned into a person with an unstable and moody temperament. It's actually pretty good. Master, these people have gone too far. It was not Master who did that. Maybe it was some of them who framed me. On this day, Jia Yan, who was enjoying the hustle and bustle of mortals on the street corner, heard the complaints of his disciple Xiao Wu again. He didn't even bother to raise his head. Xiao Wu, everything must be considered from two sides. Master is just tired of people coming to visit him every day. If this rumor spreads, wouldn't it be nice to have some leisure time? You don't want to be hindered in your practice. Yes, the master is still open-minded. Xiao Wu was startled, and when he realized that he really knew how to do things, his expression quickly changed from indignant to peaceful. Jia Yan said calmly, sometimes, if you don't take your reputation as a big deal, your reputation won't affect you. If you take it too seriously, you will only create obstacles for yourself, no matter how you behave, do things, or become strong. This is the case for all people with advanced cultivation. If you are seeking fame and wealth, you are destined to be trapped by fame and wealth all your life. This is called reaping what you sow. Master, I understand. Thank you for your teaching, Master. It's 1,000 words short. You can see it by refreshing the original version in an hour. Thank you all for your support. Jia Yan doesn't have the energy to deal with such a small character on the roadside. It's one thing to waste his energy, but it's also a price drop. Isn't it too narrow-minded for a senior domain owner to do this nonsense? In fact, he recently transformed into an ordinary person and gradually gained a preliminary understanding of the world. As Black God, the god of creation, gained deeper understanding, he began to integrate with the world as one of the instinctive powers of the god of creation. If a strong person scolds him, it may not have much impact, but if a weak person points his nose at him and scolds him, even if he is ungrateful and acts like a white-eyed wolf after enjoying the blessings of God, this is something that the world will not tolerate. Jia Yan deliberately helped and let the fat man scold him. In fact, it was revenge. The world would get rid of this daring person for Jia Yan. This is called, I will not kill Boran, but Boran will die because of me. Xiao Wu looked carefully at the back of his master, and then at the body of the fat man who was carried into the mansion by the crying clan members. He shook his head and decided to keep it secret. Regardless of whether this person was killed by the master, he died by accident anyway. Even if he had a guess, he couldn't say it. After all, Jia Yan was the master. Even if he took action, it would be to punish the disrespectful person. But I don't know if there is no airtight wall in the world, or if there were people coming and going on the mountain road last night. Some people pretended to be passers-by and stared at the master and the apprentice. In short, after Jia Yan had a verbal dispute with a local wealthy person, the man fell off a cliff and died not long after. This incident quickly spread like a spark throughout Angwo. You know, Angwo is experiencing the trend of begging for heroes these days. Unexpectedly, I heard that Kixia might attack mortals at will due to personal grudges. This is not the beggar that everyone imagined. The original intention of those who spread this story is unknown. In short, countless people who had imagined beautiful things soon gave up their enthusiasm and went to Shiyuan. On the contrary, many people no longer had any feelings for Jia Yan. Good man thought about it. Even the many people who wanted to imitate other martial arts masters and come to see the Kixia gave up the idea. The term beggar, which detonated the term beggar in the early days of the Angwo period, quickly turned into a person with an unstable and moody temperament. It's actually pretty good. Master, these people have gone too far. It was not Master who did that. Maybe it was some of them who framed me. On this day, Jia Yan, who was enjoying the hustle and bustle of mortals on the street corner, heard the complaints of his disciple Xiao Wu again. He didn't even bother to raise his head. Xiao Wu, everything must be considered from two sides. Master is just tired of people coming to visit him every day. If this rumor spreads, wouldn't it be nice to have some leisure time? You don't want to be hindered in your practice. Yes, the master is still open-minded. Xiao Wu was startled, and when he realized that he really knew how to do things, his expression quickly changed from indignant to peaceful. Jia Yan said calmly, sometimes, if you don't take your reputation as a big deal, your reputation won't affect you. If you take it too seriously, you will only create obstacles for yourself, no matter how you behave, do things, or become strong. This is the case for all people with advanced cultivation. If you are seeking fame and wealth, you are destined to be trapped by fame and wealth all your life. This is called reaping what you sow. Master, I understand. Thank you for your teaching, Master. It's 1,000 words short. You can see it by refreshing the original version in an hour. Thank you all for your support. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2756. Oh, I understand, thank you Master for your teaching. The little girl nodded in understanding, thinking, when I transformed into Brother Wang, I slept in a ruined temple with a group of little boys. Why can't I serve the Master now? However, she was also a child who had been hanging out on the streets all year round. She quickly thought of some unsightly scenes and secretly stuck out her tongue. She did believe in the Master, but the Master must have thought that he would point fingers behind people's backs, and he did this to protect her. What a great Master! He is also handsome, his movements are cool, and he is more mysterious and strong. What a beggar, he is far worse than his master. Even if he can fight better than his master, he is definitely not as handsome as him. Little girls who worship their master are almost going to be nymphomaniacs. After seeing the little girl off to her room, Jia Yan looked calmly at the few chattering people leaving the window, his gaze unwavering. Return to the bed, sit up cross-legged, and enter a state of calmness and cultivation. This is not Jia Yan decorating the fairy master again. Here, his mind was as calm as water. The gossip outside involving the dispute between the black and white gods did not reach his ears. He completely blocked the thoughts of his real body and other bodies. To put it bluntly, it was just him who was here. Without distractions, you can realize more. The basis of Shirakame's power is actually very simple. It is some kind of power that can cause ripples in space. This power is quite effective in subspace distortion and unique manipulation of power. This also involves the core of the world, etc., and after being mixed with Jia Yan's black god power, it finally brews the whole world's diverse and dazzling array of various cultivation systems. To be honest, Jia Yan admired the brain of White Dolphin for being able to create so many seemingly natural power systems through simulation. Maybe it was originally regarded by White Dolphin as an intelligent computer to deduce exercises. Sir City Lord, that Taoist priest is indeed as rumored, and he has some skills. I suggest that Lord City Lord come forward and call him into your account. He may become a pillar of Lord City Lord's banner. No need, this person is from the outside world. What we are about to do cannot be interfered with by an outsider. I hope he will stay content with these two people. When he leaves, we will take action. In the City Lord's palace, the City Lord who was in charge of this large city talked about Jia Yan with one of the people who had just been discussing under the inn. It turned out that these people were the spies sent by the City Lord to investigate Jia Yan. Of course, they thought they were unaware of the ghosts, but in Jia Yan's view, it was just flies buzzing in his ears. No matter what the City Lord and others wanted to do, as long as it did not disturb Jia Yan himself, he would turn a deaf ear. But, it is said that the Lord of the Palace will pass through our city tomorrow. He is going out to do business, and he may not necessarily take this road on his way back. If he doesn't take action tomorrow because of this person, he will miss a golden opportunity. Lord City Lord. Behind the City Lord, there is an old man holding a pearl of wisdom, his eyes are sinister and cunning. The City Lord also started to think about it. I originally wanted to incite the people in the mountain area to revolt after this operation, but before I did it, I could let the most powerful officials in my government fall here. Regardless of the prestige and actual combat factors, it would be of great benefit to us, just because it is absolutely not possible to be born stillborn. The City Lord's resolute face was as sharp as a knife, and he said calmly, "Let's do it as usual tomorrow, but send 2 masters to the inn. If the Taoist priest makes any move, stop him or even kill him." Yes. The following people were ordered to retreat. However, among the few people who left, the old man who held the pearl of wisdom glanced at the City Lord vaguely before leaving, with a deeply hidden look of disdain flashing in the depths of his eyes. The next day, the morning light shines on the earth, rendering it a golden brilliance. On this day, the City Lord led a large number of powerful people and high-level officials in the city to the outer edge of the city. One by one, they knelt down and looked at the sky in the distance. In the blue sky, a large number of people soon flew in. This group of people is guarded by powerful men, and there are also several strong men in the sky carrying sedan chairs. You must know that the path to immortality on this planet seems strong, but the strong men who can fly in the sky are far away. There are not as many as expected, and being able to use such powerful flying men as sedan bearers is probably far from being as simple as ordinary forces. The arrival of this large group of powerful men caused the breath of everyone on the City Lord's end to freeze slightly. Then when the city lord came to his senses for the first time, he respectfully led the civil and military ministers and said to the sedan that flew over the city gate, "Respectfully welcome the lord of the palace." All the civil and military ministers lowered their arrogant heads, and all of them were frightened to welcome the approaching sedan chair. At the same time, the weapons that several people were about to use silently retracted their scabbards. They were heartbroken. The well-thought-out plan was immediately declared a failure after discovering that the sedan was surrounded by strong men. How uncomfortable it was. But unlike what everyone thought, the person inside the sedan would respond normally. "Foo guards, kill without leaving an inch of grass behind." As words filled with murderous intent came out of the sedan, the flying warriors around the sedan fell from the sky one by one, their eyes filled with cold murderous intent, their swords unsheathed, and they attacked the group of city civil and military officials who greeted the sedan. "This Master Palace Master, what's going on with you? Damn it, you Song Tukai, you are trying to rebel. We are the city's important officials personally appointed by the Holy Emperor." The officials in the city were all astonished, and some people jumped up as if they had been humiliated. On the contrary, in the sedan chair, the speaker was unmoved and said calmly, "Your Majesty. You are not worthy of mentioning Your Majesty." Among the powerful men flying down, there was one who was extremely skilled in martial arts and killed the city guard general with one move. A look of disdain appeared on his face and he said proudly, "You are plotting a rebellion. Do you think that the lord of the palace doesn't know about it today? The master of the palace seems to be passing by, but in fact he deliberately lured the snake out of the hole and made you wait here to fall into a trap." In shock, the city lord looked back at the people in his team, and when he turned around, he saw a scene that he couldn't believe. I saw the wise old man whom I trusted the most, as his staff, picking up a thin sword, and the blade pierced the heart of another general under his command. "Teacher, what are you?" "There have never been any teachers. I am the person next to the master of the palace." The old man shook his head with a smile, and then looked at the city lord as if he were a fool. "I see." The city lord staggered, his face turned pale and he almost fell down amidst the endless shouts of killing around him. It turned out that his overthrow of the current imperial court had already fallen into the palace lord's sight. Even as early as he had just become the city lord and was in urgent need of manpower around him, the palace lord had arranged for this wise man to come and become an informant. How many years has it been? 10 years? 20 years? This teacher is really tolerant. Kill them all. This group of rebels will not be spared. Don't let any of them escape. From inside the sedan, the always calm voice came out again. He is the master of this palace, and the so-called palace master is a high-ranking figure who governs a total of 30 big cities, including the big city below. Not to mention his lofty status, his personal strength is earth-shattering, and he is ranked first class. Yes. Everyone should be a strong guard in the surrounding areas. As the personal guards of the palace, they are all elites. To kill this group of strong men who are entangled with the city lords, it can be said that there is no way to kill a chicken with a sledgehammer. By the way, Lord Palace Master, this city lord has 2 other subordinates. They are currently inside an inn in the city. They are considered to be the core figures around the city lord. The subordinates suggest to eradicate the roots. Otherwise, if they hear the news and run away, it will be a disaster. The white-haired old man suddenly remembered something and directly reminded him. The people inside the sedan had no faith in such small characters at all. They just said calmly, "Go to the 3 of you. Go over and kill those 2. Someone responded directly and flew into the city. Don't think that the guards will show any mercy to the mortal residents. If they don't hinder them from doing things, they will not care. But if they hinder them from doing things, they will kill them. Just like the flowers and plants on the roadside, they can be killed at will. Kill, the superiors don't care about mortal lives." Along the way, These three people caused chaos. People who can fly deliberately do not fly. After images are left on the streets, causing pedestrians and horses to fly in all directions. Some people bleed to death on the spot, and some stalls are reduced to dust, losing all their money. With people panicking, the three people rushed to the inn. No, foo guards, run away. Sitting inside the inn, among the two people who looked like ordinary guests, sipping wine, one of them suddenly changed his expression and stood up, trying to escape the wind. Want to escape? Don't even think about it. No one of you and the other rebels can escape today. The three pursuers are arrogant. As the guards of the prefecture, any one of them has the same fighting strength as an ordinary city lord, even if the difference is about the same. When dealing with the city lord's subordinates, they are even more capable, 1 or 2 levels behind. The three masters completely turned a blind eye to the guests inside the inn. One of them threw out a large number of marbles, which turned into bullets and hit the inside of the inn, causing the two people who were running away to turn around and use weapons to resist. Mortals were not so lucky. Several frightened guests were hit in the head by these marbles. They fell to the ground screaming and bleeding profusely. 2 of them kicked their legs and were about to die. I seriously suspect that this inn is a den of rebel thieves, and I propose that everyone involved here be killed. So that's it? Brother, I also think that this place is extremely thieves. It must be a den of rebel thieves. Let's kill them all. The 3 of them walked into the inn with laughter and looked at the 2 monitors who raised their weapons and tried to escape, but they couldn't escape, and they fought and couldn't beat them. You 3 dare? Except for the 2 of me, everyone here is an ordinary citizen of the city. They kill innocent people indiscriminately, but they will be beheaded. One of the 2 besieged people was the one who watched Master Jia Yan and his disciples go up the stairs yesterday. Hearing this, his eyes were splitting with anger. Innocent? You rebel, do you mean innocent when you say innocent? Now I have more reason to suspect that everyone here is a rebel gang like you. Kill them. The 3 pursuers seemed to be certain of their answers. Anyway, if you want to incriminate yourself, why bother? After saying that, the 3 of them each used their weapons and methods and were about to take action. At this moment, a guest from the inn's upper room happened to open the door and walk downstairs from the room. Seeing the scenery below, the little girl walking in front seemed to pause for a moment. Disciple, what's wrong? Get down. A calm voice came from behind the little girl. Everyone was attracted by such a calm voice, and even the 3 perpetrators couldn't help but look away from the voice. The person who made the sound was a man dressed as a Taoist priest. I couldn't tell his specific age. He probably looked no more than 40, but I couldn't hide the angst in his eyes. Except for his age, which is hard to tell, the first impression this person gives people is that he is extraordinary. This kind of demeanor doesn't look like an ordinary person. Oh. The little girl seemed to want to say something, but since the master had already said it, she had to frown carefully and go downstairs. The stairs made a loud knock. The Taoist priest followed the little girl downstairs. The 2 masters and apprentices seemed to ignore the messy and destructive scene on the first floor of the inn and walked straight to the counter. The little girl looked under the counter. The shopkeeper was huddled inside, holding his mostly bald head. Shopkeeper, let's settle the bill and calculate the money. Ah. This. The shopkeeper was dumbfounded and raised his head in a submissive manner, thinking to himself, Master and disciple, can't you see clearly what's going on outside? Still paying? Seeking death? What is this? You don't want to charge me any money? I can leave with the master if you don't want any money. The little girl asked with some annoyance. At this moment, some of the 3 guards who had watched the master and apprentice's actions for a moment spoke in a sinister tone. Leave? Just now my 3 brothers said that no one can leave the inn door today. Little girl, and this Taoist priest, you must also be rebels. Leave us your heads. You can leave if you want, just turn into a corpse and go out. A few hundred words are missing, you can see it after refreshing the original version in an hour except for the age, which is not obvious. The first impression this person gives is that he is extraordinary. This kind of demeanor doesn't look like an ordinary person. Oh. The little girl seemed to want to say something, but since the master had already said it, she had to frown carefully and go downstairs. The stairs made a loud knock. The Taoist priest followed the little girl downstairs. The two masters and apprentices seemed to ignore the messy and destructive scene on the first floor of the inn and walked straight to the counter. The little girl looked under the counter. The shopkeeper was huddled inside, holding his mostly bald head. "Shopkeeper, let's settle the bill and calculate the money." "Ah. This. The shopkeeper was dumbfounded and raised his head in a submissive manner, thinking to himself, "Master and disciple, can't you see clearly what's going on outside? Still paying? Seeking death? What is this? You don't want to charge me any money? I can leave with the master if you don't want any money." The little girl asked with some annoyance. "Have you collected money? I can go with the master for no money." The little girl asked with some annoyance. At this moment, some of the three guards who had watched the master and apprentice's actions for a moment spoke in a sinister tone. "Leave? Just now my three brothers said that today." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2757. The man was horrified and suddenly withdrew his hand, taking a few steps back with a sinister look on his face. He casually let the rolled saber fall to the ground. After the metal and iron clashed, Jia Yan said softly, "You layman, the poor Taoist lawyer and so on are the three major crimes. First of all, you and the others are ignorant and ignorant. Are you the one who can decide life and death? Secondly, you regard human life as trivial and deserve the death penalty. Third, you are too ugly, and you will not escape death penalty." The expressions of the three people changed drastically. What Jia Yan said earlier makes sense. What do you mean by the last point? You bastard, do you think you can deal with the three of me? Come on. The three of them looked at the Taoist priest squarely, but it didn't mean that they were afraid of the Taoist priest at all. Immediately, the three of them took action and galloped to Jia Yan's side. One of them had a three-pronged spear in his hand. He thrust it down and stabbed Jia Yan in the chest. The other person was very powerful with his fists and kicks. He swept his legs with his feet and attacked all three directions. The other person was the master who knocked Jia Yan's weapon away. He didn't use weapons and had other weapons available. He raised his hand and took out something similar to a firearm. Bang! Gunpowder flame burst out from the muzzle. The three of them cooperated skillfully, and it was obvious that this was not the first time they had joined forces to destroy an enemy. It's worse. The Taoist priest's strength is astonishing, but the Fu Wei army is good at joining forces. The three of them working together can even deal with people one level above them. They are already second-rate masters. I'm afraid the Taoist priest will lose. Don't forget that those present were also the two masters of the city lord's mansion who were monitoring Jia Yan. After they looked at each other, they drew their weapons. There is no choice but to join forces temporarily, otherwise they will be defeated later and they will die. Snort. Before the two men broke into the battlefield, they saw the besieged Taoist priest Jia Yanking humming on the battlefield. Boom. The Taoist priest swung out the fly whisk. The whisk seemed to have its own charm. First, it swept away the lower leg of the sweeper, and then returned to the chest. The roots of the whisk blocked the three-pronged spear on the chest. Finally, the handle of the whisk was raised slightly, just enough to block all the firearm bullets. At this time, no one expected that the Taoist priest would be able to escape unscathed after the attacks of the three masters. In the silence, the Taoist priest did not give these people any more chance to react, and unsheathed the flying sword on his back. Clang! The flying sword followed him like a shadow, as if everyone else was moving in slow motion, but it was the fastest thing on the scene, circling the entire inn. Clang! After a blink of an eye, the flying sword was firmly back in its sheath. With a startling glance, the two people from the city lord's mansion who were just about to take action rushed towards the three masters of the mansion guards who were besieging the Taoist priests. Just as they were about to take action, they saw the three of them staggering, staring at Taoist Jia Yan. They wanted to say something, but they could only spurt blood from their mouths, and then fell to the ground one after another. The eyes of the two rescuers were dull. The corpses of the three masters of the Imperial Guard were still warm, but Jia Yan had already turned around and said calmly to his apprentice brother Wang, "What are you still looking at? Pay the money, it's time to leave." "Oh, yes, master." After the little girl Wang Meyer was woken up, her words were trembling. She quickly turned around and settled the accommodation fee with the innkeeper. No matter what the innkeeper said about not accepting money, she would pay it. Robbery, oh no, after confiscating the property on Dawang Mountain, the master and apprentice were really not short of such a little money. "Master Taoist, thank you so much for your help." The two city guards who had been stunned for a long time finally realized what they were doing. They quickly looked at each other and clasped their fists at Jia Yan. "You don't need to thank me. I'm just trying to protect myself. Your city lord seems to be in trouble outside the city. Please go rescue him quickly." The two of them were startled and looked in the direction outside the city. Then they felt something keenly and their expressions changed drastically. One of them reacted quickly and rushed directly to Jia Yan and said, "Master Taoist, that must be the lord of my palace. I have no way to govern and the people are in dire straits. Please ask Taoist priest to help me, the lord of the city, to stir up trouble." Jia Yan glanced at him indifferently. "As a poor outsider, I don't want to participate in any court affairs. Please forgive me for this. Taoist master, the so-called Taoist Buddha is in chaos. The world is about to be in chaos now. If Taoist master is a true Taoist priest, why not do it for heaven? This matter is a matter of obeying heaven and benefiting the people of heaven. Taoist master, please take action." The other person later realized that if a master with such a powerful mind entered the city lord's tent, the affairs outside the city might be resolved. Even if it didn't work, the palace lord would suffer great losses, and the city lord's cultivation of them would be in vain. Two people. "Yes, please take action, Mr. Taoist. We have been concerned about the city lord for a long time. Now the city lord is in trouble. If the Taoist does not take action, we will die in front of the Taoist." Jia Yan was stunned, a little confused about whether to laugh or cry. These two crying guys, if you have the heart to repay the gratitude to the city lord, you should go to the city lord and die together with the city lord. Why do you come to me and die in front of me? Interesting. Jia Yan is sanctimonious, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have any compassion in his heart. Besides, he just wanders around on this planet with a playful mentality. Now, as for the master of the palace, he had a general understanding that he was indeed responsible for the people's misfortune, and he had also seen the behavior and thinking of the palace guards just now. Ordinary people would kill them without batting an eye, they were bad to the core. That's it. If you can get my disciple to agree, then Pandeo will take action. If my disciple doesn't agree to help you, Pandeo will walk on Pandeo's single plank bridge. This incident is sunny, Pandeo has no virtue and incompetence, and can't walk. Jia Yan simply handed over the decision-making power to his apprentice Wang Ji. "I Wang Meyer was stunned, and then she saw only two pairs of fiery eyes. This is the first time that Brother Wang has been so anticipated in so long. 2. As a citizen of the city, I know very well how kind the city lord is to our people. Now the city lord is in trouble, and this city is in trouble. If the palace lord and others break the city, they may treat our people like pigs. Dog treatment. If you two are willing to help the city lord, I am willing to waive the bill and give you generous gifts. Suddenly, the shopkeeper, who had been shivering for a long time, suddenly stood up and pushed the in-accommodation fee that Wang Meyer had just given to him back into her hand. The innkeeper seemed to be looking forward to death, but his legs could not help but tremble. Only then did he realize that the Taoist master and apprentice who lived in his inn were actually two important figures who could decide the life or death of everyone in the city with just one word. But he still stood up, otherwise everyone in the city might be slaughtered by the angry palace lord. It's not like this has never happened before. There was a city before where everyone from the city lord to the people wanted to rebel. As a result, the palace lord sent the palace guards to massacre everyone in the city. This planet is a planet dominated by cultivators. There are many practitioners who use the blood demon as their training unit. Unfortunately, the master of their palace is one of the experts in the blood demon cultivation method. He is extremely bloodthirsty. As for the Anglo royal family, they are nominally the leaders of the entire country, but their real power is almost completely swallowed up by the palace lords in various places, and they cannot control the palace lords at all. Wang Meyer was completely at a loss. She didn't have the ability or experience to make a decision on such a matter. She was less courageous and looked at Jia Yan, only to see her master looking at her nose and heart, as if he really wanted her to decide everything. If there was no shopkeeper, Wang Meyer would really have passed the buck. But when the shopkeeper showed up and said such upright words, Wang Meyer didn't know what to do. You two, if you are willing to take action, I have other secret treasures to offer. The little girl, Brother Wang, and Sister Wang were given some sweet treats again. Even the other guests around, as well as the city residents who had been watching the excitement outside the inn for a long time, also poured into the inn one by one. Your words to each other, and everyone's opinions were very valuable, and the little girl was immediately impressed. Master, how about we help them? My family was in a similar situation before, and no one helped at that time. I don't want to see families like mine appear again. Wang Meyer hesitated and looked at her master with some fear. Jia Yan opened his eyes. Then, he let out a long sigh. In fact, he didn't really think that his new female disciple was a womanly person, but now it seemed that she was not the kind of girl who could harden her heart. There is no disappointment at all. She has a kind heart, which shows that she is in a good state of mind. Even if the future is bad, she will become a good heroine. It's just that it's difficult to take a stronger path, not to mention that people in this world all have congenital defects. Even if they reach the top of this world, which is the invincible state, if they want to suddenly become invincible, they will have to change. It is even more difficult to become a strong person in the outside world and to reach the level of a venerable person. What disappoints Jia Yan is that it is difficult for a disciple to become stronger. But this sigh made the little girl's face turn pale. She thought that her decision had disappointed her master. That's right. Listening to others please so lightly means that he wants to push his master into an extremely dangerous battlefield. What kind of apprentice is he? She had already thought that the master might wave his sleeves and leave, never recognizing her as his apprentice again. Then she will return to her original shape. Brother Wang turned pale. But unexpectedly, the Taoist priest sighed, turned around, and walked towards the city gate. Master, where are you going? Brother Wang stood tremblingly behind him and asked. Since my beloved disciple has agreed to this, I will naturally keep my promise as a teacher. You just wait here. Master, come as you go. It's 1,000 words short, just refresh the original version in an hour. Wang Meyer was completely at a loss. She didn't have the ability or experience to make decisions about this kind of thing. She was less courageous and looked at Jia Yan, only to see her master looking at her nose and heart, as if he really wanted her to decide everything. If there was no shopkeeper, Wang Meyer would really have passed the buck. But when the shopkeeper showed up and said such upright words, Wang Meyer didn't know what to do. You too, if you are willing to take action, I have other secret treasures to offer. The little girl, brother Wang, and sister Wang were given some sweet treats again. Even the other guests around, as well as the city residents who had been watching the excitement outside the inn for a long time, also poured into the inn one by one. Your words to each other, and everyone's opinions were very valuable, and the little girl was immediately impressed. Master, how about we help them? My family was in a similar situation before, and no one helped at that time. I don't want to see families like mine appear again. Wang Meyer hesitated and looked at her master with some fear. Jia Yan opened his eyes. Then, he let out a long sigh. In fact, he didn't really think that his new female disciple was a womanly person, but now it seemed that she was not the kind of girl who could harden her heart. There is no disappointment at all. She has a kind heart, which shows that she is in a good state of mind. Even if the future is bad, she will become a good heroine. It's just that it's difficult to take a stronger path, not to mention that people in this world all have congenital defects. Even if they reach the top of this world, which is the invincible state, if they want to suddenly become invincible, they will have to change. It is even more difficult to become a strong man in the outside world and to reach the level of a venerable person. What disappoints Jia Yan is that it is difficult for a disciple to become stronger. But this sigh made the little girl's face turn pale. She thought that her decision had disappointed her master. That's right. Listening to others please so lightly means that he wants to push his master into an extremely dangerous battlefield. What kind of apprentice is he? She had already thought that the master might wave his sleeves and leave, never recognizing her as his apprentice again. Then she will return to her original shape. Brother Wang turned pale. But unexpectedly, the Taoist priest sighed, turned around, and walked towards the city gate. Master, where are you going? Brother Wang stood tremblingly behind him and asked. Since my beloved disciple agreed to this, I will naturally keep my promise as a teacher. You just wait here, and I will come as soon as you go. It's 1,000 words short, just refresh the original version in an hour. My little face turned pale. She thought that her decision had disappointed her master. That's right. Listening to others please so lightly means that he wants to push his master into an extremely dangerous battlefield. What kind of apprentice is he? She had already thought that the master might wave his sleeves and leave, never recognizing her as his apprentice again. Then she will return to her original shape. Brother Wang turned pale. But unexpectedly, the Taoist priest sighed, turned around, and walked towards the city gate. Master, where are you going? Brother Wang stood tremblingly behind him and asked. Since my beloved disciple has agreed to this, I will naturally keep my promise as a teacher. You just wait here. Master, come as you go. It's 1,000 words short, just refresh the original version in an hour. My little face turned pale. She thought that her decision had disappointed her master. That's right. Listening to others please so lightly means that he wants to push his master into an extremely dangerous battlefield. What kind of apprentice is he? She had already thought that the master might wave his sleeves and leave, never recognizing her as his apprentice again. Then she will return to her original shape. She had already thought that the master might wave his sleeves and leave, never recognizing her as his apprentice again. Then she will return to her original shape. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2758. As the palace lord spoke, A ray of light shone in the sedan chair, shooting into the city. He had always had a vague feeling before that there seemed to be something threatening him in the city. Now that I heard the rumors about the master, my interest suddenly arose. The person who threatened him might be a well-known first-class master, maybe he was a big fish, and if he was taken out, it would end the crisis. This. Facing the approaching sedan chair, everyone present remained silent. No matter how strong a person is, they would not dare to show any disrespect or look down upon the first-class masters on this planet, because the realm of first-class masters represents the pinnacle here. The master wants you to wait and speak honestly, otherwise it will be difficult for you to die. The man in the confrontation had a cold face and shouted. The two men who came to the rescue looked grim. If I had known that the master of the palace would target the two brothers, why did I fart just now? I should have taken action quietly and delayed until the Taoist priest arrived. When the Taoist priest was defeated, they would die together. If they won, they would not be in such danger. Master, please don't be arrogant. The master is already on his way. Oh? Can this person still pose a threat to the master of this palace? Haha, I want to see what kind of role this is. The people in the sedan were amused by the threatening words spoken by the two men. The city lord had mixed feelings in his heart. As a city lord, how could he not know the foundation of his city? Maybe the so-called masters were made up by the two old subordinates in front of him. They were simply too loyal. Master, these two are talking nonsense, let me kill them first. There was no longer any reaction inside the sedan, but Shiren flew into the air and stopped close to the city gate, as if waiting for the so-called master. The second-rate master of the Fugard army who was fighting against the two men seemed to have received the acknowledgement, and his attack power suddenly became fierce. Does this person still have any plans? Damn it, is there such a huge gap between our city guards and our government guards? The two men immediately screamed in agony, seeing that both of them were affected by the man's attack and suffered some internal and external injuries. The city lord is also in even greater danger. The appearance of the palace lord's sedan just now seemed to have given everyone present a shot in the arm. The palace guards all seemed to have been given a shot of chicken blood, and their strength was even more explosive. This is the ability of a spiritual leader. Sometimes this kind of person can make a team steadily rise to the next level out of thin air without relying on his own strength. What's wrong? Before the palace master himself takes action, we are already in danger of destruction. Everyone felt like a bucket of cold water was poured on their hearts. The reason for insisting on a fierce battle just now was that they were thinking that taking advantage of the carelessness of the palace guards, eradicating most of the strong men in the palace guards, and then surrounding and killing the master of the palace, who were top-notch experts, was a good strategy, although the probability was low. But now the palace lord just said a few words and actually increased the combat power of the palace guards. The already shaky city guards were directly in danger. How could they fight this battle? Let's not mention the changes on the battlefield for now. It was only said that the palace master who was riding in the sedan was floating in front of the city gate, and his eyes penetrated the sedan and penetrated deep into the city gate. As a top powerhouse, it's not like the palace master sensed powerful people when he first arrived in the city. But just now, when a wave that only belonged to the strong killed the three second-rate masters he sent out, he felt the threat of this power. How strong is he? He looks like a second-rate master, but a second-rate master cannot possibly defeat the guards of this mansion, let alone the three of them. This person looks like a first-rate master. The master of the palace was in the sedan chair, silently stroking his long beard. His calm demeanor makes people know he is an absolute master at first sight. At the same time, the city was already in chaos, and a large number of city residents were talking about it. Some said that the city leader was rebelling against Angwo, and the army was attacking the city. Some said that after the palace lord and others entered the city, they would carry out a round of bloodbath and massacre. In short, a large number of people were crushed by the current pressure of this kind of war, and began to flee in a panic. Not many people even picked up the gold and silver, and rushed out of the city gate. All the city guards had fled, and there was no one left to stop him. And the city residents who escaped seemed unable to escape danger. It turned out that at some point, ordinary troops were encircled and suppressed outside the city, and every road was guarded. No matter whether they were city guards or ordinary people who escaped, everyone on sight was killed, and blood flowed like a river. The smell of blood gradually began to spread into the air, and the atmosphere was filled with the taste of blood. However, among this group of escapees, there was a Taoist priest with extraordinary bearing. He was walking in the middle of the crowd, as if he was not affected by the flow of people around him. Instead, he seemed to be strolling in a courtyard and enjoying the scenery. He was quite interested in the crowd's reaction, but being interested did not mean that he would take action. Even when he saw someone robbing a weakling on the road and stabbing a mother holding her child to death, he didn't take any action. Good guys, bad guys. It's hard to explain, but for a capable person, there are too many things in the world that need to be taken care of. They are placed in front of his eyes. If he wants to take care of it, he can take care of it. If he doesn't want to, no one can force him to take care of it. If you have to act righteously in everything, you will be exhausted. After feasting his eyes for a moment, Jia Yan has read a lot about human nature. Whether it is a tragic outcome or a happy ending when the bad guys are eradicated, for him, it is all a passing thing. Whether he helps or not, he has a clear conscience. He also took action on one of them, that is, when he was running past him, there was a woman with a big belly. She didn't know if she was separated from her husband's family. She saw the Taoist priest walking slowly. She reminded him, "Taoist priest, please go quickly, there are bad guys behind." After saying that, the gangsters caught up and wanted to assassinate the beautiful pregnant woman. But Jia Yan, who had not made any move, glared at the criminal. He saw blood spurting out of his nostrils. Amidst the screams of the pregnant woman, he fell to the ground without making a sound. "How many months have you been pregnant?" The pregnant woman met the Taoist priest's eyes, and her panic disappeared in an instant. She calmly replied, "It's been 8 months, and the birth is around the corner." "Well, according to Pandeo, this child is blessed with great fortune and will definitely have some good opportunities in the future. Thank you for your kind words, Master Taoist. The little girl will go to find her husband's house first. Go ahead, I'll give you this rune." As he spoke, Jia Yan waved his hand, and a rune emitting a faint black brilliance flew towards the pregnant woman. The pregnant woman's eyes changed. This hand knew that the extraordinary Taoist priest in front of her was no ordinary person. Maybe the villain fell to the ground inexplicably and it had something to do with the Taoist priest. She took the rune respectfully, put it away with her, and fled towards safety. From now on, not only she, but also the fetus in her belly will be safe and live peacefully in mortal life. The words spoken by the God of creation are like good words of gold and jade. The words follow the law and are recognized by the whole world. Jia Yan smiled when he saw someone on the roadside preparing to rush out to deal with the pregnant woman, but a fighting blade flew out of the sky and pierced the head of the gangster. This is just a small test after he has learned many skills of the creation god. This so-called palace master is a wonderful man. Did he sense me at the city gate? Jia Yan looked up at the city gate in front of him, smiled disapprovingly, and began to walk toward the city gate, which was getting closer and closer. At this moment, there was a sound of surprise and uncertainty coming from inside the sedan lying across the city gate. All the people and guards were in chaos at this time. If the palace lord could not see the Taoist priest who approached the city gate with a normal expression in this chaotic scene, he would not be a master, but a blind man. This person's aura is weird. He doesn't even have the aura of a strong person, but if you explore it carefully, it's like an abyss. The palace master frowned, and at the same time his face showed a little solemnity. Taoist priests are actually very normal, so normal that they are very similar to ordinary people. But the problem is that this is too normal. It seems that you have become an average in everything, and you will get 50 points in every exam without missing a single point. This is definitely not a normal phenomenon. This is how the Taoist priest gives the palace master now. Taoist priest. Near the city gate, the two city guards who invited Jia Yan to fight also looked back anxiously from time to time. After one of them was beaten until blood spurted from the mouth, he looked behind him in despair, but his eyes lit up. It turned out that he had discovered the Taoist master who they regarded as their biggest trump card today and their only hope. The Taoist priest, as always, did not change much in his expression even as he pressed closer and closer to the city gate where the battle was in full swing. Seeing his demeanor, the two masters who were about to despair suddenly felt extremely confident. If you don't believe it, there is no other way. The two laymen are very good at walking, and they are even faster than the poor Taoist. Jia Yan ignored all the fighting groups, even turning a deaf ear to the sound of explosions coming to his body, and stepped out of the city gate with calmness and clearness. The sedan was erected above Jia Yan's head. He didn't even look at it and walked directly under the sedan. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. Do you think it's embarrassing to walk under someone else's feet? It's such a shame. People who live in high-rise buildings have people walking around on top of you every day, and even shit and pee on top of your head. Why don't you feel ashamed? Although Jia Yan is the reincarnation of a human, he is also an evolved beast, a giant mosquito. His long-term status as a giant starry beast has long since made him lose the shame that many ordinary humans have. Taoist master save the city lord. The two ignored their own battle situation and asked Jia Yan to support the battle group where the city lord was fighting two second-rate masters. Don't be anxious, Pandeo will take action now. In the sky, seeing that he was being ignored, the palace master's energy moved vigorously, as if he was preparing to take some action. Groan. But when the palace master took action, all he saw was a blur in front of his eyes. The flying sword with the afterimage flew towards his sedan chair at some point. The palace master was horrified, and his power exploded, preparing to defend himself. However, he found that the flying sword appeared briefly and flew in front of the sedan, pointing directly at the palace master in the sedan, just as still. This seems to say, don't move. In an instant, the face of the palace master in the sedan changed several times, and then he didn't know what he thought of. He smiled and made no move at all. As mentioned before, his execution of today's action was nothing more than killing a chicken with a sledgehammer. Whether he himself or the government guards under his command, they were completely one-sided against the forces of the city. Now that an inexplicable master has appeared, he also wants to see if his subordinates can resist it. I couldn't resist anymore, so I took action again. As for the flying sword coming just now, he almost couldn't react. He didn't feel surprised or anything, because the gap in combat power between first-class masters was limited. The other party must have used some powerful flying sword technique, which caught him by surprise. Now once he has seen it, it will be difficult for him to do the same moves again. The master of the palace is confident, and Jia Yan below is even more confident. He walked near the battle group that was fighting against the city lord, and the two second-rate masters immediately became vigilant. The palace master dared to continue to observe this person's strength, but they did not dare. The Taoist priest, who seemed to be no big deal, just now flew out a flying sword from behind, intimidating the palace master's sedan chair, and they all watched it. Even the master of the palace was vaguely intimidated. The two second-rate masters, in the face of this kind of existence, might only be able to protect themselves at best. You too, regarding Pandeo's loyalties, If you don't want to be injured by Pandeo, you'd better ask the city lord to come to Pandeo. Jia Yan was calm, and his words were not threatening at all, and his voice sounded pleasant, like a spring breeze. But the meaning revealed in the words was not so calm. It's a direct threat: if you don't hand over the city lord, I'll beat you. Humph, Niobe, who are you? You want to hinder the actions of our guards. Are you tired of living? Among the two of them, one of them raised his voice and used force to overwhelm others. When ordinary masters meet masters with official status, their momentum will be weaker. It's not that officials have any luck, but that there is often an astonishingly huge force behind them. The imperial guards cannot defeat you. Naturally, the commander of the palace guards will take action. No matter how hard the commander is defeated, even the first-class powerhouse on the planet like the palace lord will take action. If even the palace lord cannot do anything to you, the officials will use huge power and send out a large number of people. A first-class master will strangle you. No matter how strong a first-class master you are, you will still be unable to beat four hands with two fists. There is no need to mention the names of Pandeo and outsiders. If the two officers are flattering and scolding Pandeo, then the city lord should leave it to Pandeo. We can't let Pandeo break his trust. More than 100 words are missing. You can see it after refreshing the original version in half an hour. Strong people will also take action. If even the palace master can't do anything to you, the government will use huge power and send a large number of first-class masters to strangle you. You can do whatever you want. No matter how strong a first-class master he is, he can't beat four hands with just two fists. There is no need to mention the names of Pandeo and outsiders. If the two officers are flattering and scolding Pandeo, then the city lord should leave it to Pandeo. We can't let Pandeo break his trust. The difference is more than 100 words. You can see it after refreshing the original version in half an hour. The difference is more than 100 words. You can see it after refreshing the original version in half an hour. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2759. You guys, let this city lord go and go over to learn the Taoist master's tricks. The palace master in the sedan chair seemed to be afraid of the coming master. Let that sword point. Yes. The two men who were besieging the city lord will come away with their hands tied. The city lord stumbled, and after seeing Jia Yan's face, his expression was mixed. As the main messenger who sent people to test Jia Yan, how could he not recognize Jia Yan? Even if you haven't met him in person, you can still recognize the Taoist priest's identity through his appearance. Yun hugged Jia Yan. The city lord did not dare to approach Jia Yan. Instead, he flew far away to the city wall and closed his eyes to rest. He was seriously injured and needed emergency treatment. Moreover, even if he wanted to leave, the people present might not be able to let him leave in such a bold manner. The palace lord said let go, not really letting him go, but letting the city lord take a breath. If he didn't know what to do and wanted to take the opportunity to leave, then the war just now would definitely continue. Niobe, the master of my palace said that I want to learn your clever tricks, so you can die. One person took the lead, holding his own spear weapon, and stabbed Jia Yan in the vital part with a feint. They are the palace guards raised by the palace master. Let alone being confident in their own strength, even if they know that Jia Yan is a master, they cannot disobey the palace master's order. After a feint, the gun moved to Jia Yan's right side, vowing to disembowel the guy who dared to release his flying sword and point it at the palace master. But Jia Yan felt like there was a rock under his feet, motionless. At the last moment when the spear tip pierced his body, he shook the whisk in his hand. Suddenly, sparks flew everywhere, and the spear that was stabbed was forced to fly away. Taoist priests should not be arrogant. The other person had already arrived behind Jia Yan without knowing when he was looking around. A slender sword was so magical that it almost cut into Jia Yan's back. Jia Yan didn't even raise his eyes. He turned his head in mid-air and whipped the sword to the back. The sword was broken into two pieces and turned from a magic weapon into garbage. The two men were equally matched in strength, so the damage they received was similar. Oh, he is a Taoist priest with some skills. The palace master in the sedan chair let out a sound of admiration, but this sound was a bit more unscrupulous than before. As a strong person, he can measure the strength of strong people quite accurately. The Taoist priest's action allowed him to see the true level of the Taoist priest. It was very strong. When two second-rate masters attacked together, one was thrown away and the other's weapon was broken. But it was still far from threatening him. There is also a gap in strength between top-notch masters. City Lord. The two strong men of the city guard who were fighting a second-rate master suddenly flew to the city wall and joined hands with the city lord to watch the battle below. The second-rate master who had beaten them both to the point of spitting out blood just now took advantage of the situation and came directly in front of Jia Yan. This person's fighting habit was to open and close, and he was often very powerful. Often even the strongest could not beat him. This tone. At this time, this strong man is taking advantage of others' danger. If Fu Chen cannot return in time, Jia Yan may be injured. Rat. Jia Yan drank lightly, raised his fingertips, and appeared with a snap of his fingers. The big knife in the man's hand flew away, and even the compacted blade broke in mid-air. The finger strength was so powerful that the palace master in the sedan couldn't help but frown. He thought that the Taoist priest was better at flying swords and whisks, but now that he looked at it, his physical body was extremely terrifying. These factors added together showed that this Taoist priest might be more powerful than he thought. But that's all. He thought he didn't need to feel a sense of crisis. The three subordinates jointly attacked the mysterious Taoist priest, but the Taoist priest seemed to have damaged their weapons, but he did not even hurt a hair on their heads. This showed that he was either not ruthless enough or not strong enough. Either way, there is nothing to fear from this first-class Taoist priest. But he never thought that this Taoist priest was not kind or lacking in strength. He was just playing here. I am afraid that the palace master would not see the Taoist priest so clearly. Put down what you are doing and have fun with this Taoist priest. The palace master snorted again. The palace guards under him are the strongest subordinates to the palace master. It seems that none of them are stronger than him, but if they all join forces, even the palace master himself does not know whether they can win. This group of government guards, after all, is more powerful in numbers, not to mention that they have been working together for many years. They are no longer at the level of 1 + 1 = 2, but have an incomparable ability to combine vertically and horizontally, and are the best in killing the strong. Yes. Numerous government guards treated the city guards like a joke, all wanting to make the toys in front of them last longer. At this time, not many city guards were actually killed. Now that they had a new toy, they were in great spirits. They all turned around with ferocious smiles and rushed towards Taoist Jia Yan's direction. Is this the palace master? At this moment, the Taoist priest who stood proudly in front of everyone but still looked like a rock had a smile on Zhenjun's face. He took a step forward and did not wait for the powerful men who were rushing to arrive. He just waved his fingers calmly. The flying sword that was hanging in front of the palace master's sedan suddenly turned around and was held by the Taoist priest. With the long sword in his hand, the Taoist priest's momentum seemed to suddenly rise. It seemed that he was invincible in the way of swordsmanship. Everyone originally had the same hatred and thought that they wanted to cut this man into pieces, but now under the influence of this momentum, all the masters suddenly felt frightened in their hearts. Palace Master, you are so powerful. When Pandeo came here, he never said that he would fight with you. If you want to kill Pandeo, it would be too underestimated for Pandeo's life. Clang. He was holding a long sword, and suddenly he collided with the first sword holder to rush forward. Gold and iron clashed. Broken sword style. He said this calmly, and saw that the ordinary enemy he had encountered grunted, and he was hit by a sword in the heart, and blood flew out of his mouth quickly, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Don't be arrogant. Behind him, 7 or 8 more people came to attack him. Breaking sword style, breaking knife style, breaking palm style. Jia Yan muttered in his mouth, making up the names of various moves. With his muttering, he quickly deciphered various weapons and attacks. This is the Dugu 9 swords in the literary work created by a certain senior novelist on Earth. Of course, the effect in actual combat seems to be similar to that in the literary work, but in fact, Jia Yan used his extremely powerful combat experience and ability to deliberately create this effect. Through continuous simulation, he finally came up with a similar real-life version, which is the version that Xiao Wangmeier uses. The figures of about a dozen people came and went even faster. Each of them had either a broken weapon or a serious injury, and their eyes were about to burst, but there was nothing they could do against the Taoist priest. They were a little frightened and uneasy. Ming Ming looked at the Taoist priest right in front of him. The speed of his attacks didn't seem to be much faster than that of himself and the others, but every move was just right. If they hadn't known that they had no past relationship with this person, they would all have done it. You have to believe that you have colluded with this person to play the role of the master of the palace. When everyone fell to the ground and all were gone, Jia Yan's eyes were empty again. Looking at his feet again, good guy, this Taoist master has hit so many moves without even moving his feet, which shows how powerful he is. What a great sword move. What is this sword move called? The person in the sedan couldn't speak to himself for a long time. After a long while, he asked in a tone that could no longer be heard. Dugu 9 swords. Jia Yan swung his long sword and finally drew his leg this time. The ground beneath his feet sank a lot, as if it had endured a lot of force. If the performance is too terrifying and the palace master and others collapse, it will not be fun, and this account will be boring in the future. Everyone will run away when they see it, or if the status is too high, then it is just a joke. Jia Yan doesn't want to play with that, he just wants to have some passionate battles. Even if he plays the role of an enemy, he is willing to do so. Humph, Your Excellency, do you really want to go against me? With your ability, you must have reached the level of a first-class master. It shouldn't be difficult to go to an ordinary country and assume a position similar to mine. Why bother to fight here? How about we fight to the death? At this time, the palace master in the sedan chair was no longer so calm. When he used these sword moves, he knew that he was facing a tough opponent. If he really wanted to fight, he would win, but he might not be able to kill him. Of course, he is not that worried. Just now, he was thinking that the Taoist priest in front of him is the best among first-class masters. Now that he can't kill him, he will go back to find some partners or something, chase down the Taoist priest, or get some benefits from him. A first-class master. Their net worth is generally quite high. Palace master, I don't dare. It's just a matter of loyalty. If you retreat now, maybe the battle between Pandeo and the palace master can be brought to an end. The master of the palace was a little moved. Just as Jia Yan said, what Jia Yan wants to do seems to be to protect the city lord and others. It is better to turn around and call friends. Once enough people have been gathered, and then surround the Taoist priest, the city will still be unable to escape. Lose. After thinking about it, he denied it. When the tough guy showed up, he, the strongest palace master, didn't even dare to fight, so he chose to run away. That was too embarrassing. It is better to have a small confrontation with him to see how good this person is, and to plan a plan to hunt him down in the future. Thinking of this, the palace master snorted coldly, "Forget it, since Taoist priest you want to mind your own business, then don't blame me for being ruthless." The sedan suddenly broke in half from the middle, and an old man with a white beard burst out from the inside. This old man doesn't look like such a generous person. I'm afraid no one will care about him if he is left on the side of the road. But he is the master of the local palace, and his strength is astonishing. Master, there is no need to be merciful. Since I have taken care of this matter, I will not be merciful in my explanation. Please. Jia Yan's fresh clothes and angry horse, seemingly ordinary Taoist robes, all have the feeling of making waves without wind. The strong men on both sides were colliding with each other, and many people around him were unsteady and fell backwards. The palace master was a little surprised and uncertain. It's true that the momentum is colliding, but why does this Taoist priest keep blowing his momentum under his feet, making his Taoist robes rustle? Is there some conspiracy? Be careful. He never thought in the future that the Taoist priest was just showing off to create a visual effect. There is no way to communicate with these natives who have no movies or TV series. When the people around him saw that the master of the palace had come out of the mountain, their eyes became hot as if they had taken some powerful tonic. Everyone knows the power of the palace lord, but no one has seen how strong the palace lord really is in combat. In recent years, there have been fewer people even seeing the palace lord take action. Unexpectedly, a Taoist priest appeared today and attracted the palace lord himself. Take action, this is considered a worthwhile trip. Clang. Suddenly, the palace master in the air took out his main weapon, which was a hook. Very few people can use this iron hook well, but as long as it is used well, it is a very powerful weapon. After using the hook, he was not polite. His figure flickered, as if he had shrunk to an inch. In the blink of an eye, he reached the front of Jia Yan's body. He used the hook in his hand to collide with the Taoist sword. He probably wants to find out what this Taoist priest is capable of, so the best way is to directly confront him head-on. After the energy collision, he can know the strength of the opponent. When? As expected, the long sword was not frightened by such speed, and accurately collided with the palace master's hook. So strong. The palace master's expression suddenly changed, and he couldn't help but take several steps back. Each step was a deep footprint. After 5 or 6 steps, his body disappeared into the sky again. Taoist priest, a person like you is definitely not a nobody. Why don't you tell me your name? Maybe we still have some old feelings and this battle can be unnecessary. After one fight, he knew that she was among the first-rate masters, probably at the top of his game. The battle with the Fu guards just now had hidden elements of clumsiness in it. Good guy, are you just playing tricks on me here? Why stop the war? Palace Master, there are a few hundred words left, and you can see the official version in the Kidian in an hour after using the hook. He was not polite, his figure flickered, like shrinking to the ground like an inch. He arrived in front of Jia Yan's body in the blink of an eye. He used the hook in his hand to collide with the Taoist priest's sword. He probably wants to find out what this Taoist priest is capable of, so the best way is to directly confront him head-on. After the energy collision, he can know the strength of the opponent. When? As expected, the long sword was not frightened by such speed, and accurately collided with the palace master's hook. So strong. The palace master's expression suddenly changed, and he couldn't help but take several steps back. Each step was a deep footprint. After 5 or 6 steps, his body disappeared into the sky again. Taoist priest, a person like you is definitely not a nobody. Why don't you tell me your name? Maybe we still have some old feelings and this battle can be unnecessary. After one fight, he knew that she was among the first-rate masters, probably at the top of his game. The battle with the Fu guards just now had hidden elements of clumsiness in it. Good guy, are you just playing tricks on me here? Why stop the war? The master of the palace, a few hundred words are missing. You can see it by updating the official version of Kidian in an hour, is a man of the highest standards. The battle with the palace guards just now had hidden elements of clumsiness in it. Good guy, Are you just playing tricks on me here? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2760. The Taoist priest is fierce. The palace master's eyes were splitting with anger, and he even couldn't believe it. From the first time I thought my subordinates would be able to handle it, to later I thought I would definitely be able to catch him if I attack, but now I finally discovered that this Taoist priest lifted the veil layer by layer, and finally revealed his true face. He was not an ordinary person who could be dealt with casually. A first-class strong man. But a top-notch strong person who may be stronger than him. Taoist master, it is absolutely impossible that you are borrowing money from an unknown person. Could it be that some powerful person is hiding his name and pretending to be a Taoist priest to come to Angwo to cause destruction? The palace master's face was extremely cold, and his mood was as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, and his whole body was a little wary. The master in front of him was stronger than himself, but he lost his arrogance and felt a slight intention to retreat. The poor man is on the right track, why bother pretending to be someone else? It's just that he hasn't been out of trouble for a long time. The Taoist Jia Yan transformed into was calm and peaceful. The palace master's heart was spinning rapidly, thinking about who the saint was. If he hadn't left the mountain for a long time, it was not impossible. In 100 or even hundreds of years, there were too many strong Taoist priests who could cultivate to the level of a first-class master in the deep mountains and old forests. It is not impossible to leave the mountain. Or simply it is possible for some old-timers to escape into Buddhism and become Taoist priests. Seeing Jia Yan calmly waving the sword flower in his hand and walking towards the direction of the palace master's expression changed several times and he finally backed away. My friend, we have no grudges. Since you want to protect the city lord, I will give you a face. After saying that, his eyes wandered, and the two pieces of the sedan behind him automatically reunited and turned into a seemingly normal sedan, and the person stepped into it. It's not polite to come back and not reciprocate. Since the palace master has taken action against Pandeo, then Pandeo should also let the palace master see Pandeo's moves. Jia Yan smiled. After attacking him, he wanted to run away when he saw that he might not be able to fight him. Nothing in the world is that easy. Even if you want to hide your strength and choose not to kill, a small punishment is still unavoidable. The sword in Jia Yan's hand automatically flew up out of the air and stabbed the sedan that was leaving with flashes of lightning in the air. You dare! There was a roar from the sedan. However, all I could see was the black gas gushing out in the air, and the sword light shining for miles. Pyridine. The sedan was cut into two halves again, and the palace lord who was riding inside the sedan had his clothes instantly torn to pieces, and his delicate grey beard was cut into messy pieces. The master of the palace, whom no one in Angwo dared to provoke, had lost a great deal of face here, and his whole body was in a mess. He gritted his teeth, not even daring to look fiercely in his eyes. With the power of the sword, he ran away without looking back. Ha ha ha, what does the palace master mean? The survivors of the city guards who had been beaten to a miserable state by the government guards suddenly became proud, and some of them laughed wildly. The powerful members of the Fu-Wei army simply said nothing, put away their attack moves, split up, and fled in all directions, as if they were afraid that the Taoist priest would intercept and kill them. Even the master of the palace is like a child in the hands of the Taoist priest, and they can't even fight back. The leaderless government guards looked like they belonged to a miscellaneous army. Of course, if someone believes this and goes to hunt down the Taoist priest, these guards will teach them how to behave. No one is that stupid. Taoist master, I cannot thank you enough for your kindness. When Jia Yan drove away the governor and looked back at the city lord who was leading the city guards with a calm expression, the city lord's expression changed drastically and he hesitated and bowed his hands. You don't want to say thank you? It turns out that this poor man is so mean. No, no, we are extremely grateful to Senior Deist. I don't know what he needs. As long as we can do it, it will not be a pity for everyone in the city to die. Death is not a pity. Does Pandeo want you to wait until you die? Why don't you kill yourself here now? This, Taoist Senior is joking. After a few words of conversation, the city lord was sweating and shuddering all over. He felt that the Taoist priest seemed to be teasing when he spoke, but his indifferent face seemed to be serious, which frightened him. If it were any other existence, he wouldn't be like this, but today he realized that the Taoist priest in front of him was actually a master who was more powerful than the master of the palace. Even Nguo couldn't deal with such a master. He belongs to the top master in the entire world of cultivating immortals. How dare he act like a city lord again? I guess you won't be able to get what I want, that's all. I'm wasting my efforts for no reason and it's thankless. It's better to go back to sleep. Jia Yan snorted moodily, then stood up and walked towards the inside of the city gate. Senior, why don't you arrange a new residence for the Taoist priest? The inn is a place where people come and go, and it is not convenient for the Taoist priest to rest. Jia Yan looked moved by these words, stopped, looked at him, nodded and said, you have some conscience, go ahead and arrange a better place to live. It's not like he really wants any benefits, so changing to a better place can be considered a small reward. The little girl here, Wang Meyer, was eating in the inn, but she didn't taste anything good. She was in a daze, her eyes never leaving the direction of the city gate. The sound there echoed endlessly, and her heart was a little frightened with the sound again and again. Her master's ability is a secret to her. She didn't know what her master was capable of. After all, at first, she just thought that the Taoist master she met on the road was at most a third-rate expert in the world of immortality. But later, she killed the Dawang Mountain bandits, and her status as a master was reduced to a second-rate status. Now she saw that her master dared to intervene in the battle between first-class masters, and the enemy was the palace master, who was a good player among the first-class masters. To say I'm not nervous would be a lie. But her advantage is that the more nervous she is, the less it will show on her face, she just eats harder. You evil disciple, you are fighting on the front line for your master. You don't know whether you will live or die, but you are enjoying your life in the rear. Suddenly, he heard loud noises coming from the front of the street. The half-chewed melon got stuck in Brother Wang's throat, causing him to cough. Tears and snot bubbles came out. She finally swallowed the fruit and looked up. Her master was almost in front of her, shrinking into an inch step by step. It was extremely powerful. Master, you are back, so fast. I am worried about the master. These neighbors brought some food. Master, please eat it. This melon is so sweet. Wang Meier was quite a smart child. Seeing that Jia Yan didn't seem to be really angry, she immediately picked up the fruits sent by the neighbors and handed them to Jia Yan. Well, it's really sweet. Okay, pack your things and go with me. Let's go to the city lord's mansion. Ah. Go to the city lord's mansion, master, what's going on outside? It's solved. Come on for me, do you still think I can't handle it? Don't dare. The master is unpredictable, so the disciple will naturally trust the master. We can set off now. I have everything with me. The two masters and apprentices were talking to each other as if they were having a cross-talk. As they talked, Jia Yan picked up a piece of melon and ate it in his hand. Brother Wang and the little girl also gradually relaxed. Holding both hands full, eating while walking, no image at all. Not long after, the two masters and apprentices left the inn without saying hello. Is that done? They didn't say whether they would win or not. Otherwise, let's go out and ask. It doesn't look like something is wrong. All the neighbors were a little confused, wondering how this battle, which was about the lives of the entire city, was going. As a result, they ran out to ask for information, and the city guards rushed back. When they told them, everyone was shocked. I'm sorry, the Taoist priest who was carrying melons and fruits just now and looked extremely ungrateful turned out to be a real expert. One person beat away the master of the palace, which is equivalent to saving the entire city's people. They all regretted why they didn't repay others well before, even if they brought more delicious food to the Taoist priest. Pity. On this end, Jia Yan led the little girl brother Wang. They saw many panicked pedestrians along the way, but the number was much smaller. As the fighting at the city gate decreased, and the city guards returned to command the police and government officials in the city, they began to clean up the troublemakers in the city, and the entire city gradually returned to its former tranquility. While walking on the road, they encountered some troubles. For example, some police officers were checking the streets, and some guys took the opportunity to exploit the village. Jia Yan gave Brother Wang a look and asked her to take action to defeat these robbers. Brother Wang is somewhat capable. After learning swordsmanship for a few days, he can easily deal with ordinary xiao and yamen servants. The two walked for a short while and saw the city lord and others passing by in the sky. They did not notice the Taoist priest and his apprentice walking slowly below. When they arrived, the city lord and others happened to be ready. Welcome to our seniors and disciples. Outside the city lord's palace, the city lord personally went out to greet him, followed by a large number of senior government officials, and many people who had been summoned urgently, standing in a circle. He was about to kneel down, but Jia Yan stopped him casually. If Senior hadn't taken action today, many people in the city would have died. Senior, please come in and let me entertain you. The city lord can be regarded as a human spirit. People who have climbed to such a position have many tricks in addition to their own strength. It can be seen at a glance that Jia Yan is not the kind of big shot who likes ostentation, and may even look down on such small ostentation. So he asked everyone to retreat and personally received and confronted Jia Yan and his disciples. In the entire city lord's office, everyone was smiling like a flower. When they saw Taoist Jia Yan, who looked like he was in his 20s at most, everyone shouted senior and their eyes crinkled with laughter. Of course this was what the city lord ordered. Such a high-ranking person is moody. He might have been helping you fight against the palace lord just now, but then he might turn around and kill all the lords of the city after you upset him. Similar things happened endlessly in history, and he could not repeat the same mistakes. In this way, master and apprentice Jia Yan felt comfortable. How could they usually be so comfortable in the outside world? Passers-by might give them looks, but today in the city lord's mansion, everyone respected them. This female high disciple will definitely make great achievements in the future under the guidance of senior Taoist priest. I also ask the female high disciple to show your love in the future. At the banquet, the city lord showed great respect to Wang Meyer, and he must give a grand salute. He did not have any contempt for her because she was not strong enough and she was a little girl. The little girl Wang Meyer was almost dizzy and in a state of high spirits. This is my eldest son, but he is close to the age of the female disciple. How about letting him accompany me and let the female disciple play with the master of the palace? The city leader has something to say. Jia Yan looked at the cheap apprentice indifferently and saw that the little girl's pretty face was red from being so admired. He couldn't help but laugh and nodded. Go ahead, but don't be too coquettish because of the master, do you understand? Yes, master. Wang Meyer couldn't sit still for a long time. The city lord's mansion seemed to be the city lord's mansion, but in fact there were many people here, the environment was beautiful, and there were many interesting and new things. She had long wanted to look around. This young lady, Please come with me. The city lord's son was quite good looking, and without any loss of etiquette, he led Brother Wang away. City lord, you are quite scheming. If my disciple has that intention, I will not stop her in the future. But if she doesn't, you have to use too many brains. Poor Taoist Joe said before. Your city lord is full of people in the city. Ping Dao said if it is destroyed, it will be destroyed. Jia Yan was drinking wine calmly, but the words he spoke were like a basin of cold water, which made the city lord suddenly tremble. I don't dare. The small town is just a bit boring to see the master, so I asked my son to go and play with him. How dare I have any intention of clinging to him? The city lord hurriedly explained, but Jia Yan ignored him, causing the city lord to sweat all over his body for a long time, thinking that he no longer dared to play tricks. Find the book garden. However, after inquiring about what he said just now, the Taoist priest seemed not to resist letting his son get close to this young female disciple. If it could really happen, then who should they fear in the city? With such a master in charge, Angua would be helpless against them. But this can be thought of but not said. You said it, wouldn't the Taoist believe that you are plotting against him? This man is capable. Believe it or not, a whisk will kill you. Taoist Jia Yan has more thoughts in his heart. There was no conspiracy, and he had no intention of playing with the people on the little immortal planet, let alone being plotted against. He was just thinking. Since his debut, he seems to have taught many so-called disciples, but looking back, he rarely thinks much about his disciples. Especially when it comes to his disciples' happiness, that is, lifelong matters, he has never thought about them. As the saying goes, once a teacher, always a father. Many people only think of being a father as a master, but they never think that as a father, you must also be like a biological father, taking care of the lives and needs of your apprentices. Consider all aspects of the future. He was meditating with his eyes closed. Because of the special status and talents of people in this world, it is difficult to keep the apprentices here with you all the time. Even if he can be taken out, judging from the current situation of Jia Yan's treatment of so many apprentices in the past, I'm afraid he will forget about them unconsciously. So instead of thinking about whether to have apprentices in the future, it is better to make arrangements for the future of the apprentices now. Strength is one thing. If they don't have a family, it's better to have a family. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2761. Thinking about it, Jia Yan felt a little dizzy. The two of them looked elegant here, but in fact they were talking useless words. Wang Mei on the other side followed the so-called city lord and son towards what he considered a good place. This is the outer garden of our family. Do you know the outer garden? Just think of it as a place for play. Not many families in the city have a place for play. Only my family and a few elders have it. As he spoke, he noticed that the master disciple beside him fell silent. What's wrong? Wang Meier's eyes were filled with sadness. I thought that the beloved city lord would not build such a facility. I didn't expect that your family is no different from the big families I know. The lord of the city was stunned. What was going on? I brought you here to play, why did you suddenly change your face? What he didn't understand was that the reason for the change in Wang Meier's family was also because her family had worked for a big shot, and then was betrayed by the big shot, saying that their family was being robbed. As a result, the whole family, including Wang Meier's life, had a shocking turn. Twist. She really hates the special family. I don't know what the senior disciple has seen in the city, but my family is different from other families. These facilities such as the outer garden are just buildings left by the former city lord. Please don't be too prejudiced against us. Okay. I originally thought that taking the apprentice of the senior master to see the world of the city lord's mansion, and at most taking her on a sightseeing trip, would make the senior get closer to his family, but now it has cast a shadow. The young master sees that there was a smile on his face, but he felt a little unhappy inside. However, similar to his father, the young master of the city lord's mansion is not a bad person. He has a noble background and was taught well by the city lord. Ahead is the martial arts performance field of our city lord's palace. Why not go and see the martial arts performance of our city guards, just so that the master disciples can teach them a few moves? The young master led Wang Meyer towards the martial arts arena. The followers behind him frowned and hesitated, wanting to persuade the young master to give up this idea. But if you speak out, the water thrown out will never be recovered. You can't go against your master's attitude in front of the guests. This would make people laugh. Presumably this guest doesn't want to end up fighting. In the martial arts arena, everyone was roaring, and a large number of city guards were flying up and down in the martial arts arena. You must know that there are still many masters on this immortal planet. There are also many real martial arts masters, and there are many in the city guard. Some of them had made meritorious deeds in the battle outside the city just now, but now they were not arrogant and came to the martial arts field to continue to train themselves. Ha! Kill! 2 city guards holding swords fought in the city, surrounded by city guards who were watching their fight. Obviously, these 2 people had good reputations, which led to them being sought after by the city guards. Ding! One man let go of his long sword and flew into the air, only to be caught by the young master's hand. Young master responded very quickly. Wang Meyer said in surprise. She thought that this young master was mediocre in strength, but she didn't expect that he was also a young talent. Needless to say, my young master's level is considered good among us city guards. Besides, my young master is only 15 years old. In a few years, it may not be difficult to catch up with the city lord's ability. Suddenly, Wang Meyer raised her eyebrows. Since the young master is so powerful, let's have a fight. I think we are about the same age and see who is stronger. How is this possible? There is a difference in age between you and me by several years. At our age, the difference in age is a lot. The young master was startled and waved his hands repeatedly. He didn't want to fight with this master's apprentice. No matter he won or lost, it would probably not be a good thing. Clang! While speaking, Wang Meyer had already pulled out the sword from her scabbard. It seemed like there was a sound of gold and iron clashing, but she pulled out an ordinary long sword. My master has said that my actual combat experience is very poor, so please give me some advice. At this moment, the city lord was picked up. He thought for a long time before reluctantly nodding in agreement. At the same time, he felt helpless in his heart and thought about why. He had just mentioned the outer garden and other places, which had irritated the little girl. It seems that a woman's heart is still as deep as the bottom of the sea, so don't talk nonsense next time. As a young man who knows how to reflect, he directly admitted what he had done wrong. When? Dang dang dang. In the air, the fight between the 2 young men was earth-shattering. The many city guard masters below looked at him with bright eyes. A fight between 2 children is not that attractive in the first place, and it is impossible for the city guards to watch a slapstick fight between children. These 2 are very different from ordinary children. When the 2 of them fought, the young master was very personable, because the swordsmanship he learned was inherited from famous masters, and he had a master's style. But the girl on the other end seems to have relatively superficial skills, but her ability and moves with the sword are absolutely magical. Every time the young master makes a mistake and wants to use the other party's mistakes to win, the girl will use weird methods to punish him. Get away. At first, the young master thought about giving way to the girl, but as he continued to fight, his attitude became more serious, because he knew that if he continued to let the situation go, he might not win. There is actually a huge gap in the immortality energy contained between the 2 parties. The girl is at least one level behind the young master, or even more. But the exquisite move saved everything. Ding! After the last move, the girl knocked away the fine iron sword in the young master's hand. Her face was filled with excitement, the tip of the sword pointed at the tip of the young master's nose, and she said with a smile, "I win. The high disciple is indeed worthy of being a high disciple. I am convinced that I will lose." The young master smiled bitterly and shook his head. Wang Meyer was very unhappy after winning over this young man who seemed to stand out from the crowd, directly exposing her child-loving nature. "If I hadn't only followed my master for less than a month, and what I learned was not even 1/1000th of what he learned, I'm afraid I could defeat you in today's fight with just one move." Suddenly, the young master, who was still preparing to show his calm demeanor, was stunned. Real or fake? This girl who is stronger than herself has only followed the Taoist senior for less than a month. That's right, both in terms of aura and proficiency in moves, she doesn't look like someone who has been practicing for many years, but like a novice. But, just because the level of moves is too high, she is forced to master all aspects. Under the condition that they are all weaker than themselves, they directly defeat themselves. Senior is indeed a powerful person who can penetrate the heavens and the earth. I can't break the moves he taught to his disciples at all. Ha ha ha, you don't understand. It's not you who is breaking my moves, it's me who is breaking yours. My set of sword moves is called Dugu 9 Swords, which is designed to break the moves of various weapons. The sword move you just made is the trick I have learned for the longest time and the most diligently to break it. If you had used a sword today, maybe I might not be able to win." The young master couldn't help but feel fascinated when he listened. Having such a master is really a blessing from the past life. Unfortunately, he is the eldest son of the city lord. Judging from the Taoist priest's attitude, it should be difficult to accept that he also apprentices himself to learn skills. For the first time in his life, he was a little discouraged because he was the son of the city lord. "You don't have to think so much. The reason why I left was not to just accept anyone as my apprentice. Along the way, my master also saw many children with extraordinary talents, but none of them showed their appreciation. At the heart of a disciple, I must be too good." Listening to the bragging of the girl brother Wang, the young man rolled his eyes and wanted to scold her. But the roles and identities of both parties did not allow him to do such a thing. After returning to the palace of the city lord, when Jia Yan asked brother Wang about the young master Chenzi, he could tell that the little girl had a very good impression of the young master. In this way, Jia Yanzhen became more thoughtful. "Brother Wang is 12 years old, I remember. It is impossible for a child of this age to fall in love. But since Jia Yan has thought about it and tries his best to arrange the lives of his new disciples, he will give some snacks. It's a pity. I gave the apprentices on both sides the setting that there will be a battle in the future. It is unlikely that the two of them will become lovers. But now I don't know what to say to explain it. I can't say that the master is actually the same person, and now I want to explain to you clearly. Is it because he wants you two to get together and become a couple? Having said this, I don't know whether the two will become a couple as they wish. Jia Yan is sure that he will be turned against him by his apprentices and become his enemy. It's better not to say anything and let nature take its course." In this city, the city lord exhausted all his efforts and forced Jia Yan, a master with great magical powers, to stay for about a week. Jia Yan can be regarded as reading this person's mind, which is to let Jia Yan sit in charge. Especially the escaped palace master knows that he, a master who can kill the palace master, is still in the city. In this way, the city will be destroyed. I can have one more day of peace. But there is no such thing as a feast that lasts forever. Jia Yan has lived here for a long time, just to see the customs, and then casually see if his disciple will fall in love with the city lord. Unfortunately, after a week, the scenery of the city was almost gone, and the apprentice did not have any sparkling thoughts about the young master. The city lord had already asked his son to try hard to get close to this master's female apprentice, but children were children, with little success. In the end, the young master no longer had any expectations and was just chasing Brother Wang to ask some questions about cultivation. Brother Wang was stupid and poured out all the words Jia Yan taught her, as if shaking the sieve, which made the young master increase his strength a lot for no reason. That's all. Okay, city lord, there won't be another feast today, right? Forget it, I understand your thoughts, but after all I am used to idle clouds and wild cranes. There will be a day when I have to leave. You must find a way to solve your problems yourself. At worst, Pandeo and his disciples should make less noise when they leave, so that the palace master and others will think that Pandeo is still there, so they will throw a trap. What do you think? When Jia Yan faced the city lord again, he made the above call. The city lord sighed, forget it, I know that Senior will not stay in this city for a long time. Fortunately, Senior has given me a lot of face and allowed the city to make more arrangements and means. He also invited several experts from other places to come and take charge. Although it is not we may be able to deal with the palace master, but if Senior is willing to create the illusion that you are still in the city, the palace master must not dare to act rashly. Well, this is just a temporary measure. The palace lord will not always be deceived. It's just up to the city lord how you find a way to make up for it later. Jia Yan didn't squint his eyes and looked at the city lord calmly. He has no sense of guilt at all, and there is no friendship between the two parties. To Jia Yan, this city is just a city he passes by, so even if he is slaughtered by the palace master and others, it is just a slight feeling in his heart. It's just a little bit rippling, there's no sense of guilt. So he will leave without any nostalgia. After staying there for a week, helping this city survive the most dangerous time was already the most benevolent and righteous thing to do. I won't thank you enough for your kindness. If Taoist priest needs our city's help for anything, everyone in the city will do their best. Okay, then I'm leaving. Jia Yan smiled, and his figure gradually turned into mist and disappeared in front of the city lord. The city lord was shocked in his heart and rushed forward to observe the place where the Taoist leader disappeared. He saw only a slight fluctuation of power in the confusion, and nothing else could be sensed. The Taoist master's methods are indeed shocking. If there is such a person to help me, we will be very lucky. The master next to him sighed. The city lord shook his head. He knew that such a thing was impossible. A master of this level could not even see the bottom line of his strength. If he wanted to fight for power and gain, he could do it casually. He even wanted to become the emperor of Angguo. It won't be too difficult. It's just nonsense to ask them to serve. Do you want to fight me again today? Huh, you little master, you couldn't beat me with my great strength in the past few days, and it's even more impossible now. My strength has improved in these few days, which is beyond your imagination. On the martial arts field, the little girl queen pulled out her iron sword and pointed it at the young master of the city in front of her. He was about to defeat the princess with a sudden force of wind and rain. Disciple, it's time for us to leave. Suddenly, a disembodied voice appeared above the entire martial arts field. The echoes were endless, and the many masters present were all surprised. They picked up their weapons and searched for any traces of the enemy. Brother Wang still has good eyesight. From a distance, he found a Taoist priest with a fairy spirit standing proudly on the treetop near the martial arts field. Master, are we leaving? On the treetop, Jia Yan nodded and smiled, yes, I have been here for a long time and I must leave. Oh, let's go then, young master, let's go and see you again later. With that said, the girl put away the sword that was about to be unsheathed, and without any hesitation, she flew up to a few dozen meters and came to the same level as her master. You have made rapid progress in the past few days. Well, these days, they have fed me a lot of food and medicinal materials with spiritual energy. I have reached the prefecture level that the master said. Don't be arrogant and complacent, you are still far from enough. As the two masters and disciples spoke, the figures on the treetops gradually turned into nothingness under the gentle wave of the Taoist priest's big hand.